Hiya! This episode of Watch Out for Fireballs is brought to you by our patrons, specifically Nat. Nat, thank you for sponsoring the episode. But also Catastrophe Dude, Jeff Miller, Adam Lucy, David Van Mill, and Not from Brighton. Wonder where they're from. That username raises more questions than it answers. Thank you very much for supporting us. If you would like to support us, hear bonus episodes, hear full-length episodes, premium episodes each month, and support your boys, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Also, a little reminder, if you have a project you'd like us to highlight and you are not a cis white straight dude like we are, please send me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv. Thank you. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are continuing our discussion of Final Fantasy XII. The JRPG by Square came out in 2006 and was executive produced by Nat here in 2022. Thank you very much, Nat.
We appreciate you, Nat. What did we do last time, Cole?
Previously, we did the beginning of the game. We spent 2 hours talking about the generalities and then began the game. We have most of our party put together, except Penelope been done taken. And we have to chase her to Bajerba first, the Flying Continent, only to discover that she's on the Dreadnought Leviathan in the hands of the Empire. So, got to go fix that.
Yeah. We will take the reins of fate and put it in the hands of man. Note about speed on this episode. We're going to cruise. I don't want to give anything short shrift, but this is a game where the generalities, like rightfully, I feel like took a lot of it. It's also a thing where like a lot of the story content in this game, there's like a point, and this is a very common thing in Final Fantasies where like you start getting teleported to realms and your characters stop talking to each other. And like, it just becomes not really about character anymore. There's not a whole lot to talk about. It's just alien gods, you know, it just becomes, it regresses to the mean. So like, we're going to definitely stop on the important parts, but we have a lot to get through. And I don't want to record for 5 hours. No, I don't want this. I think that'll make a poorly paced episode.
I think it will. So be prepared for us to move a little bit sprightly through this. You know, we definitely made note of the mechanical highlights of different places that we go, things like that.
We give short shrift to your favorite battle or your favorite interaction, especially if it's an optional interaction, and we miss it. Don't feel put out. It's not personal. It's not you. It's Matsuno. It's not even really Matsuno. So we left off on the Dreadnought Leviathan. The party has been kind of purposely captured here. It's marched to the bridge to see Geese. And he's already talking to Amalia. If you recall, Amalia is the incognito princess we met last episode.
And this is where Basch reveals that Amalia is Princess Ashe, saying, "Hey, we're here to deliver the proof of your birthright, so you can take the throne again. Here's the Dusk Shard."
You know, Vaughn's like, "Do I have the Dusk Shard?" Because Vaughn is essentially a bag during this story. Like, he fulfills the function of a backpack for most of this in terms of the plot. And Geese is like, "Yeah, I'll take it. You know, go to the dungeons." A lot of standard villain, like, "I'll spare you if you give it to me now. It'll be easier for you." You know, betrayal shit. He sends you to the dungeons, but we're rescued by Vossler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this starts the dungeon. We're trying to, find and rescue Ashe from where she's being held. The trick to this, or the gimmick, is that there are laser gates that are up periodically. And if you trip them, then guards will spawn in to fight you. These Imperial swordsmen and Imperial mages, once they team up, ends up being a little bit of a challenge if you have not developed your gambits just yet.
Yeah. To me, it is a mild disappointment as a dungeon gimmick. Like, it's a cool idea, but you can't avoid laser gates. It's not like you can completely avoid them.
Yeah.
There are ones just on the critical path, and the layout makes no sense. It's just hallways. So like, this hallway is blocked by a laser gate. This one isn't. But then next time you have to go through a laser gate.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a whole lot of clever maze design in this. It's a place where you can, if you want the game to auto grind, you can AFK this game in traditional MMO fashion. This is one of the places, because it will spawn unlimited dudes for you if you park yourself by a gate. We get through, you reach Ashe. She joins the party officially. And then we reach Larsa and Penelo here eventually as well.
Yes. Yeah. And they start talking about, like, hey, what's up? Because Larsa kind of seems to be surprised by this, saying, oh, that you and Captain Ronsenberg were made to appear dead. It was like a hidden thread laid bare. We have to figure out why Vane wanted them alive, but wanted that to be a secret.
Yeah. Because if you recall, he had the Marquis announce the deaths.
Yes.
So we, you leave. Larsa gives Penelo a piece of manufactured nethicite. As the pronunciation stuff in this game, I hate Marquis. I love manufactured.
I like manufactured quite a bit. Manufactured versus deifacted. Yeah.
It just it sounds like a Connecticut. It just sounds nice to me. Whereas Marquis is poison. It's basically pouring poison in my ear like Shakespeare. Manufactured is beautiful.
Yes.
But I love also, like, here's a weird rock to commemorate our time together.
And this becomes hilarious once Larsa realizes what magicite or what nethicite is.
There's a lot of this story that's just about people holding onto rocks for reasons they don't understand. Like, the plot needs them to have this. Like, everyone's a backpack. It is a story of 6 backpacks traveling across a continent, and like, all that really matters is who's holding which rock, and they don't know why, and the person who gave it to them doesn't know why. It's just putting the rocks in the right place.
Yeah, that can apply
to Game of Go.
That can apply to a lot of Final Fantasy. And these are just standing in for the crystals, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's Final Fantasy's trick / curse. It's just about some magic rocks. Do they mean anything? Not really. They're just magic rocks. There's other stuff happening that means stuff, but these are just rocks.
Yeah.
You have the rock, you reach the bridge, and Judge Geese says that Ashe's status is no longer a concern now that they have the Dusk Shard. He does not give a shit who she is. They'll just get an imposter for this. And we fight Judge Geese.
Yeah. This is still pretty basic. The fights are going to get more complicated, but right now it is literally just like, okay, he's using strong magic. He can target your entire party. You just have to make sure that you're healing up. Like, this is just testing your healing gambits right now.
Well, and ads. So like, you're targeting gambits as well. So your characters so they spend the proper amount of time clearing the ads before they fight Geese. For example, like, I had my Vaughn as steal 100%. And then my Basch as attack party leader's target. So like, while he was stealing, Basch, like, he was flitting from person to person, Basch wasn't focusing fire. So it was just, to me, like, okay, I have to take more direct control over this boss fight. Here, but still nothing too tough.
Yeah, you can solve that by using a target enemy with the highest max HP. Usually that will get somebody to prioritize the main and not scatter around after the ads.
But if he does that, then Vaughn won't steal from the person, because Vaughn will steal from whoever's closest to him, and then Basch will hit that person, and he no longer has max HP, so Vaughn won't steal from him. And I want Vaughn to steal from the boss characters, because maybe they'll have something good.
Oh, yeah. I still think my solution would fix that. I'm just mixing up who's targeting who in this. Yeah.
Got you. If I have, what is it? Vaughn steal from person with highest max HP. There's no like,
I'm
stealing.
No, if you just do steal any, he'll steal as long as there is something to steal, and then I'll move down that to attack. I kept having there's nothing to steal messages keep popping up. Oh yeah.
I'm not in. I don't know if there was something I missed. When I had steal at a certain thing, he would just continually steal. He never realized somebody was empty. So yeah,
that's a trick that the system doesn't tell you. So like if you target any is not actually just a blind kind of thing. So to use an example for something else, say target ally any with a remedy. That doesn't mean they're just going to keep using remedies as long as you have remedies. That means whenever anybody has any kind of status effect, they will use a remedy on them.
Oh, that's frustrating. I did not know that. That's irritating messaging because that's not what that word means. Any does not mean that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's irritating. I wish that was communicated better.
Same.
Personally. After you take down Geese, Vossler leads you to a Tomos fighter. This is extremely Star Wars, like a little, fighter jet thing. Yes. A little X-Wing thing, to return to Bajurba.
Yes.
And you get there and the Marquis, welcomes you and explains, that his announcement of Ashe's death was made on Vane's orders.
Yes.
This in order to drive a wedge between Bajurba and Rabanastra.
Yeah. Just to say like, hey, this Marquis, he is, a puppet of the Empire. Resistance do not trust him. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And he advises caution, saying, hey, we could succeed with our immediate plans to deal with Vane, but Ashe, you just kind of handed over the one proof that you had that you're you. The Grand Kiltius, kind of the Pope over there at Mount Omases, wouldn't recognize you. So that would just create a power vacuum.
Yes. Yeah. It's a weird, the story about her having to have a rock to prove that she's who she is is a little bit weird with the time scale.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't been very long since the initial incident. Like it feels like there'd still be people who just knew her, who could vouch for her.
Yeah.
In her capacity as princess, she never met the Pope, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She ruled from one of those plastic magneto cells.
It must have, and then the idea that anybody has the stone, it's just a transferable ID without a picture on it. Like if you're a lady with light hair and you have the stone, you may as well be Ashe to everyone.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a way to do this. We'd have a double and you have to prove your lineage thing, but it doesn't work with the time scale involved. It's okay. Like it's not a huge thing, but it's just kind of a weird thing to hinge the plot on to me.
I think they're just hanging this part of it on genre tropes, historical fiction and fantasy fiction kind of things.
Yeah.
There have been imposter rulers and stuff.
It's a huge Game of Thrones touch. It doesn't end up. But usually there's either greater distances or greater time involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ashe figures, hey, I don't want to make anybody else complicit in this, so I'm going to go try and steal the straw, Balthier's ship to get this proof of her birthright, this other proof, the Dawn Shard. But then Balthier stops her saying, hey, we should go together, but for a price. I'll just frame it as a kidnapping. That way you won't get in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's real slick during this. Like, what does it fetch? A princess fetch, in terms of ransom and stuff. He's being cool. Back at Arcades, Gabranth reports to Emperor Vane, or reports to the Emperor, and Vane and Sid are working together to undermine the Emperor's goals, letting them know the Empire's goals. Here. Yeah. The Emperor, this is when we meet him. He's very ill. You can tell because he coughs. And there is politicking over who will succeed him. Yeah. The Senate, who also comes out of nowhere. Here, these evil mustache twirling Senate guys, they want Larsa in because they think they can control him. They do not know exactly how precocious this boy is.
Yeah. And the Emperor says, hey, Gabranth, you need to keep your eye on Vane, because he fears that Vane is going to come after Larsa. And, saying like, oh, about this, about this whole brother killing brother thing, right?
Yeah.
But you're loyal to the Empire itself. You're loyal to its people, not necessarily to any individual person. So, like, you just need to stop Vane from doing anything to Larsa and stop him from acting against his own interests. Starting either this fraternal war or this greater war against anybody else.
He specifically says, like, protect Larsa.
Yeah.
Like, they're both kind of dancing around whether they think Vayne is capable of killing his little baby brother. So we park the Strahl over in the desert, and it can cloak, revealed. We cannot continue because of something called the Yagged. This is like a mountain, is what I picked up. What is the Yagged?
The Yagged is it's a presence of thick mist that makes the skystones in the airships not work.
Got you. So we cannot get through. Some ships can do it, some ships can't.
Yeah.
And the Dawn Shard is in the Tomb of Wraithwall across these sand seas. So we have to go. The sand seas are crossable by these huge oil rigs. These are constructed a long time ago by the Rosarians. Nobody likes the Rosarians. Mm-hmm. Or no, the Rosarians aren't. Who are the little? I'm thinking of the Urton Yensa.
Yeah. The Urton Yensa, which come riding up on their little sand manta ray kind of guys.
And they're what are those things? Those sand creature things from Star Wars.
Either the Tusken Raiders or Jawas. They're kind of a mix between them.
Yeah, just very Star Wars. I really doubt that this is not inspired by Star Wars. Do not believe for a second.
Yeah.
Like, they're Tusken Raiders.
Yeah. But this is kind of our first really big area. Like, you're going through multiple screens across these big circular tower kind of deals, fighting things on these oil platforms. There are a couple of stops here, as, Basch talks about, like, oh, it's the small craft's fate, to watch the galleons and pray for light winds, just saying, like, yeah, just this whole area has been fought over. It's traded hands a lot over the past time.
Yeah. Yep. Vossler catches up to us here. He believes, he believes in the mission, and he's like, we have to get quick. We have to be quick before word of this kidnapping gets out. Like, I believe you that you're faking this kidnapping and you're actually on the princess's side. Yeah. We have to be quick. This gives us a companion NPC, which is useful for this dungeon. This dungeon is one of the first ones where when you walk off onto a diverticula, you might get ambushed by an elemental.
Yeah.
Which, again, not a big deal in the Zodiac Age version, but pretty big pain in the original version.
Yeah, it's a big run to zone kind of time.
Yeah. And Fran senses, they're in danger because of the Urutan Yensa, these little Tusken Raider guys who will show up. These guys will haste themselves. Mm-hmm. That seemed like the big mechanical innovation.
Yeah, them. They have numbers and they hit very fast.
Yeah.
There's a secondary area here. A lot of these big overland areas end up being very little except things to fight through, kind of getting the equivalent of this game's random encounters, and then providing stages for hunts later on.
Yes. Yeah. So you can go backwards, like big stretches of hallway.
Yeah.
That you'll go through. There's a little pit stop we make with a little subplot where there is one good Urutan Yensa who he wants help dealing with this huge turtle called the Urutan Eater. I wonder what he does. And then when you go kill the gigantic turtle, you come back, and this is played for a lot of pathos, and I don't give a shit about these goblins.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, no, don't execute him. And they're like, we're as old as the sand. Our rules matter. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck this little goblin. I got to go to Wraithwall.
It is the way of the sands that we must execute any who talk with outsiders.
Yeah,
blah,
fuck
blah,
these
blah.
kids, man. I hate these goblins. Get out of here. But yeah, we get out of it. We get out of there.
And we get right to the Tomb of Wraithwall, which is in this kind of big foreboding box canyon kind of deal. This Valley of the Dead. We're attacked by Garuda, this flying boss. This is the first major flying enemy, boss that we've dealt with. And there's not just that, the fact that you need to equip special weapons, use magic, but it can inflict sleep, which is a big problem.
Yep. Big pain for me in my build because I didn't have ranged characters in my main party. Had not been leveling up my backup characters with range stuff.
Vossler has a special skill that can get around that.
Telekinesis,
but, Kyle.
Yeah, you don't find that for your mains for a while.
Yeah, that's a high level kind of thing.
Yeah. So I turned my party into a Vossler support engine because I was being stubborn about not wanting to switch to characters I hadn't been spending time leveling up.
Yeah.
When you eventually do beat the Garuda, you get inside and we're introduced to a Final Fantasy staple, a demon wall.
Yeah.
This first one you can fight. If you fight him, you get a equipment that jumps up the level curve. He's real hard. You have to do some grinding to beat him here. The intended thing is you run from him, and then when you get to the end, you fight a second demon wall.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to the fight here, other than the fact that the first one's real hard and the second one's much easier.
Yeah. The second one's made easier, not only because it has less overall HP, but also it moves more slowly in general, and you can slow it down periodically on the bridge that you're on. You can activate these statues, one of which will speed it up and the other of which will slow it down. So it's a matter of taking control of your party leader, ditching any of your, party leader attacks, gambits, and just have them go ham. And have your party leader go and activate the nearest statue to see if you can slow him down to buy enough of your time. This was the first time that I died on this playthrough, going through for the show, just because I wasn't dealing damage fast enough. This is a neat encounter for them to bring over and try and do in this engine outside of the active time battle. This is always a stressful fight, and this is a cool manifestation of it.
Yeah, as opposed to just being a countdown.
Yeah.
It interacts really interestingly with the battle speed that you have, because its movement is independent of that.
Yeah.
So you're mechanically incentivized to turn up your battle speed for this to make your animations and turns come up faster, because that does not affect the pace at which the wall moves.
Yes, that is strange.
It's super weird. When you get past this, Ashe gives you this history lesson about the Dynast King Wraithwall. I know there's dorky phrases in this that I've been harping on. Dynast King is my least favorite. This never doesn't sound like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Even more than Marquis?
Even more than Marquis. I hate Marquis, but I've come to accept that's just an alternate pronunciation. As far as I can tell, Dynast King is like a portmanteau of a king and dynasty there. I hate it. And you have these characters very seriously delivering Dynast King. It just sounds dorky to me. It reminds me, like, we're going to do Metal Gear 5 pretty soon. And like all of the stuff with the diamond dogs and like the way that things are, it needs like a coolness pass in localization to me. Like it just doesn't sound cool.
They needed something for a continent spanning ruler that was not empire, because that was already taken. I'm not going to go on that ride with you, kind of hating it, because in reality it doesn't bother me, but I'm not going to pull the brakes on your ride either.
It's just whether it just clashes. It's just a weird place to put a made up word, but you're right, that's exactly because they already did empire. I would have rather they made up a word that didn't use real words, maybe. Supreme Lord,
great ruler.
Mega Man. Yeah, great ruler.
Robot Master.
Robot Master. Dr. Wily. Something like that. Dr. Light. I know, Cossack. Like, there's a lot of things they could have done. Cutman. It just feels like there's a lot of options other than Dynast King. There's also the double consonant in a row that makes it sound... It's like the opposite of manufactured. The opposite of a cellar door kind of thing.
They should have gone with King Nasty.
Exactly.
King Nasty.
Shady Nasties. I don't know what it would have been, but it's fine early on when they're talking about it, and then later when characters start very seriously invoking the Dynast King, like the descendant of the Dynast King. It sounds very silly to me. But the minor. Not a big deal. Just silly. But he was an emperor.
Yes.
He ruled all of the empires. He was a Caesar.
Yeah. And this was considered to be a time of great peace that was aided by these three relics, these three stones, which he gave out to the big players. The Midnight Shard, the Midlight Shard rather, was given to Nebradia. The Dusk Shard was given to Dalmasca, where he ruled, in the Dawn Shard. It was stored away here.
Yes. And we are in a big dungeon here, this gigantic tomb. There's statue enemies. We have to go to the different wings to activate the way forward, go push the buttons to make the way forward. When you eventually get through to the Dawn Shard, it's guarded by the Esper Belias. Belias the Gigas. The first Esper we're going to have, introducing the summoning system here, and introducing the precedent that you have to defeat summons to get them. In this.
I love the Espers, and I love reading their little stories because
I really like the designs on these guys.
Yeah.
And I like that they show up in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Oh, of course.
That's the real thing that I like about this. Is like, oh, it's that first guy you fight in Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics.
Some of them are also like allusions to other other Final Fantasies. You know, I think 1 through 5 are represented here. You have Chaos, you have Zeromus. There's I think something approaching X-Death. It's neat, and all of these are avatars of these forces created by the gods. But these are the dark forces, that were created as part of that duality that eventually rebelled under the leadership of Chaos, kind of the leader, or no, Ultima, the leader, kind of the fallen angel one.
Yeah, he's a fire boss. Big fire boss. His kind of gimmick, in addition to doing his like little fire summon attack, is he'll douse you with oil first, which is a status effect that makes you extra vulnerable to fire. That you get rid of with like a handkerchief
with a rag.
Which is real cute. Yeah. It's like you literally wipe it down. A real Elden Ring soaping yourself off vibes.
You don't wipe. You're just pushing it around. You have to dab.
Yeah, dab.
Nobody loves oily Vaughn.
I do not like bronzered Vaughn. You eventually beat him, and this Esper glyph appears. We get the Dawn Shard, and now we can summon Gigas, or we can summon Belias. We talked about this, how any character can grab this, but only one character can, and it changes the topography of your license board a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to get, I believe, 5 of them over the course of the main story. 5 of the Espers.
I think it's 4, but
we'll see how it goes. Yeah. That's 5 out of the 13. The remaining 7 or 8 that you need to get, 7 or 6 rather. They are very difficult challenge bosses. In some of the toughest dungeons in the game, after some of the toughest hunts. So they're firmly post-game content.
Yes. There's a little bit of a minor imbalance in terms of reward and risk for them, in that they're good, but they're not, you don't need to have them to do the game. And they're not as useful as they are challenging to beat. Like there are ones that are cool to have, but they're not commensurate power wise. Would not a big deal, because the reward of them, they're optional bosses. Like you're not fighting, you don't fight Ruby Weapon for those materias.
No.
But it's interesting that so many of the summons are like the majority of them are this.
Yeah. Which is fine. This is where Ashe starts seeing the ghost of Rassler, of her deceased husband. And Vaughn starts seeing a ghost of Rex, his deceased brother. It's unclear at this point what it means. The ghosts do not talk. They just kind of look at them and nod. And nobody else can see them.
Yep. Straight up Force ghosts.
Yes.
In this non-Star Wars influence thing. Beating this allows you to do a second job on your characters, which we talked about in the first episode. The big deal.
Yep.
When you leave, you get captured by the fleet. They have managed to power through the Yogd because they can. It's mentioned earlier, like an NPC will say that they can do it. But they're able to get through.
They heard a rumor that they can. Later on, when the Strahl gets the ability to go through Yogd, it's revealed this is something that was researched through the manufacturing of Nethicite.
Gotcha. Yeah. Manufacturing.
Manufacting of Nethicite. There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, don't get it fucking twisted, dude.
No. You manufacture something manufacted. There we go. Manufact is not the that's not a verb. That is that is the modifying.
Do I have to change my podcast Manufacts? Where I just each new episode is a new thing about a magic rock. This one's a rectangle. That's Manufacts, baby. Yeah.
Brought to you by
brought to you by rocks. The geese thanks you for bringing in the Dawn Shard. Real villain shit, like, you unlocked it for us. This is deifacted Nethicite as opposed to manufacted, made by the gods as opposed to made by man. I like the way they're using those roots.
It's
literally deity and man. you know, and it's revealed that Vossler's a traitor. Vossler did it to you. He set you up.
Yeah. If we are to save Dalmasca, we must accept the truth. I will fight this profitless battle no more. You know, so he's been working for them, and he sees this as a way to, you know, basically hand over Dalmasca in order to save it.
Yeah, in order to save the people of Dalmasca, you know, as opposed to the land. Geese, you know, says orders us to be taken to the Shiva. He puts the stone in the Leviathan's reactor to test it. You know, Vossler takes you to your prison, and while this is happening, Fran starts losing her mind because the mists are gathering. The mists are driving her nuts. She's very mist sensitive.
Yeah, this is the case for Alvira. Yeah.
Yes. Because it's not going well. Them putting the dark science rock into the directly into the engine of their ship doesn't go super great.
Yep. I found this uranium just out there on the ground. Let's pop that old bad boy in the gas tank.
It's very Homer using the you know, anything he finds at work to power stuff, like when the Simpsons or when the kids pound the rod into the remote. You know, it's very similar to that.
The inanimate carbon rod.
Yes, yeah, love it. Can't wait to see the rod. So this distraction of Fran going crazy lets us fight Vossler. Here, Vossler is kind of a mini boss. He's not too much, you know. And when you kill him, he dies wishing the best for Dalmasca. There's a like, no, you do have honor kind of exchange with him and Basch. Like, you know, he wants the best for Dalmasca, and Basch is like, I believe you.
Yes,
you know, you meant well.
Yeah. At the Leviathan, the power readings are off the charts, and they cannot stop it. Just a meme from Chernobyl, moving the red and blue pegs around. And the ship explodes, taking out the entirety of the Eighth Fleet and making this huge ghost-like figure appear temporarily. And we're only able to barely get away by hijacking one of these fighters.
Yep. This is the end of Act 1. We get these little Andor interludes with him kind of talking about history, telling the history of the stuff afterwards. He talks about how he fled to Bajurba to organize a resistance elsewhere. And Ashe continued to remain in hiding because she did not have that proof of her lineage.
Yeah.
Need rock, want rock. So we start off Act 2 here with a cutaway to the Imperial Senate. The senators are telling the Emperor that Vane must be brought to justice for his actions.
Yeah. They're real sore about losing their entire huge fleet.
Yeah.
And
it was geese, you know,
right.
But probably acting under encouragement from Vane.
Yes. Yeah. The Emperor is angry, saying like, oh, you're making me make this horrible choice. You know, figuring, oh, you're just gonna, you really kind of don't care about that fleet. You just want Larsa to be put ahead of Vane so you can control him. You know, you see Vane as a threat, which, regardless of if it's true, is not a good reason to do something.
In retrospect, it is.
Yes.
Knowing what we know about Vane, the Senate are kind of the heroes of this, which is unusual for a Senate in a Star Wars like. They are correct. We should probably put Lars on the throne and just summarily execute Vane before he turns into Horalu warrior at the end. Inflation fetish, end of Metal Gear Revengeance. Vane turns into the end of this fucking game. It's so gross.
Can I get something in a strong vein?
Yeah, can I get something in a veiny vein? Can I get something in an It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia drawing of a cock, but as a person?
Like, no, it's a bicep. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's what Vane turned. That's what the boss of this. So Ashe is in Rabanastra, putting together that all the Empire's actions led by Vane have been about the Nethicite. Vane wants them rocks. Destroying Nabidus, trying to take her out to get the Dawn Shard. He's crazy for fucking rocks.
He's crazy for these rocks because they're nukes. Like we get to walk in and see what happened to Nabu D. It's a dead city of ghosts and wind now.
Well, we also saw what it just did to the entire Eighth Fleet.
True.
One of these other rocks, like through, so they're very powerful. He loves rocks. So he's been doing all this stuff, and she wants to use this depleted Dawn Shard that she has to protect El Masca, but they don't know how to use it. And Fran says there's the Garif people in the Osmone Plain would know what to do. There's wise old people who have always used the rocks.
Yes. And this is the start of kind of Ashe's motivation here. There's a kind of a game-long question about her relationship with the power that these stones might provide for her. That is kind of going back and forth a little bit.
Yeah. This was a thing where that question, which I felt like was meant to squeeze a lot of drama out of it, did not work for me because of the genre it was in. There was never any doubt. To me, like all of the will she or won't she use the rock for power. Like this story is not operating on a level where the
that
answer
seems
was
like it's a possibility.
It was just a foregone conclusion, and that's a genre staple of these kind of melodramas, to me, and it's part of why they don't always work for me. Is that there's just not, when I say that I think that sometimes the storytelling, like this is a deeper story than most Final Fantasies. One of the things I mean when I say that I feel like some of these stories are very shallow is that the characters are going through roles, playing their parts that you do in these kind of monomyth kind of fairy tale things that are telling you like lessons, telling you lessons that you are told in fiction. They lose the ability to surprise me. And I'm not as driven by surprise as some people are in terms of media, but there's a cumulative effect of just like good will triumph and this will be the lesson that kind of bums me out. The thing that is cool about Final Fantasy 12 that is like a little bit of sugar on top of that is that it is concerned with ground level people, in that like the actual effects on citizenry and stuff are never really forgotten about, which I feel like they would in a different Final Fantasy,
So the thing that makes her, utterly unsurprising actions when it comes to this kind of work is, they play at it still being a question for her, I think, in order to draw a contrast, not just between her and Vayne, which is the is the obvious thing, but between her, Vayne, Cid, and Vana, all of whom seemingly want extremely similar things, but for different reasons that kind of manifest in different ways. So I think that is the interesting part of how she remains uninteresting.
I just feel like the people who aren't here, like they feel like more minor articulations in what they want, like wanting to use the cursed object for science versus wanting to use the cursed object for power. Like I just know cursed objects, because of fiction. Like I know it's always wrong. It's not. Even though I really like Cid's performance, and I think that he's a good villain. I think he's a better villain than Vayne in this. Wanting to use the evil rock for science is more interesting than wanting to use it for power. My hero choosing not to use the evil rock is just a foregone conclusion, regardless of what the other temptations are.
I'm not like saying
it doesn't add enough interest for me to make those scenes of will she, won't she work.
Yeah. And so I'm not saying it like it takes it and makes, and makes that less of a, I'm not saying it makes it something, fantastic and genre transcending. I'm just speaking to how it adds a little bit more dimension than one would expect by this, from this kind of story.
On the curve, 100%. Yeah. But it's useful for me in terms of talking to people who have like listened to the show or fans of the show who, when I say like, I feel like these stories are really simple melodramas, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like this is, and they don't treat themselves like it. They still want to cash in a dramatic check on something that is a foregone conclusion. And that to me is a marker of a story that is like, too oftentimes for me, not in this case, because I like Final Fantasy 12, but like in a lot of times too cliche.
Yeah. So like a lot of things in Final Fantasy 12, the ways in which it reads for more kind of impeaches, the broader efforts in the genre, right?
Yeah, it's kind of held back by the fact that it has to be a Final Fantasy game, because Final Fantasy games are concerned with going through these motions. You're not going to be surprised by a Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Tidus he's a ghost. Tidus. There's a couple like minor little surprises, but in terms of these choices, your heroes are always going to be honorable good and just do the thing.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shade to your heroes in these games. And that, I think that is a limiting factor.
Yeah.
It's also a huge appeal for like a lot of people. Like I want to, I want to go on the journey. I want to go on the Saturday morning goodness is good journey, and I get that, but it is a thing that stands out to me when there are other elements that contrast with it.
Yeah.
Which there are in this game.
Yeah.
So,
but this is the start of that, the start of that angle for her, and, some of the doubts from within the party, if not from the player themselves. Balthier agrees to stick around, for the sake of money, and takes Ashe's wedding ring as this down payment. And he promises like, hey, I'll give this back if I find something more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird beat. I've read online people, this is him testing her, to check out, her purity and her dedication to it, and that's fine.
Yeah,
it does feel very like knife twisty in a funny way. Here's the one sentimental thing. So we go back to the Giza Plains, which are rainy now, which means there are tougher monsters. These big like funny looking Muppet alligator things that open their mouth in a weird way. These things are great. Yeah. I love them. And then we pass through the Osmone Plains, which have these ambush snakes. The first time we've seen them, they pop out of the ground. And then black chocobo, who are aggressive. I love just fighting chocobo as a mob enemy. Just killing tons of peaceful, beautiful horses. It's very funny.
Oh, man. But we get to Jahara. And this is where we meet this game's stand-in for indigenous Americans, tribal bull people.
Always going to be.
Weird that this lines up with our discussion on Bonfireside Chat.
Yeah, they'll just never not be an honorable race that is coded as First Nations people.
Yeah. But there's a bit of a runaround. This is a little bit annoying. We're like, oh, I'm this kind of chief, but I'm not that kind of chief. Ultimately leading you to the main war chief, who says like, oh,
Dynast chief, please.
He says, the gods, they granted us Nathasai long ago, but we failed them. And they took it from us in displeasure and gave it to the Dynast king.
Yes. So they don't know how to use the stone. It's depleted of its mist. The Nethicite is drawn to those most drawn to it. It's a one ring thing. It's a corrupted object that wants people who want it. This is kind of saved from being, we did not get the information we need from running into Larsa. We get there and he says that Andor's resistance will stir Arcadia into action, which will give Rosaria pretense to declare war. We need to stop this. He's bringing us back into the geopolitics bit of it.
Yeah.
Where, these three different factions that are all affecting one another.
All looking for any excuse to go into all-out war. And Larsa proposes, hey, Ashe, if you go to Mount Burr Omasace. I always want to say Omasachi, but that's not how it's said. Omasachi Burr. Yeah. No, it says, hey, go to Mount Burr Omasace and speak to Grand Kiltias Anastasis, kind of the furry Pope man. Tree Pope, to have your lineage verified. Like, he'll understand, so you can go back to Dalmasca, assume leadership in lieu of Vane as Lord Consul and, start suing for peace.
Try to stop this war.
Yeah.
And Ashe is resistant at first. Larsa reminds her that Robin Ostra would be the battlefield of the war. Like, if this war happens, like this hometown is going to literally be the field. Everyone will die.
Yeah.
And she's not going to do it. But then Vaughn, for the first time in the story, is pivotal by talking to her at night and saying like, hey, this is important.
Yeah, just I decided it's time to stop running.
Yeah.
A theme is creeping in, which is going to entirely overtake the back half of the game, which is individuals' relationships with the past.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they embrace their failures and move on, or deny them and end up being chained to them.
Yeah, and how long you can run.
Yeah,
from them. Most successfully done with Balthier,
of course.
IMO.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to leave. Larsa says, "Hey, there's someone I want you to meet on the mountain. A friend and an enemy." Here's some cryptic stuff.
He's a bit of a riddle. He's a bitch. He's a mother. He's a child. He's a lover. He's a sinner. He's a saint.
I do want to stop this war, but nothing's more important to me than playing my little guessing game. Little shit, Larsa. I'm a guessing boy and I live in a guessing land.
Oh man, we get a cutaway back to the palace. A whole gaggle of judges, including Gabranth and Drace, the one lady judge. They're kind of talking about all these goings on, and it's clear that Gabranth and Drace are kind of in each other's confidence here. Gabranth is like, "Hey, the Senate is really sorely mistaken if they think Larsa will be their puppet. If they think they can tame him, they're going to be surprised by his bite, and he'll be surprised by theirs."
Yeah. Yeah, this to me communicated to me that it was going to do a triple fake out, and Larsa was going to be a real shit.
Yeah,
and he's not. He's still basically okay.
Yeah,
but this way, but it really felt like, oh shit, maybe Larsa's the one to watch in terms of misdirection here.
Larsa's the puppet master.
Yeah. So we had to go through the Golmore jungle. A couple of Golmore girls with some new enemies here. They're panthers. Who are squirrels here, and then fan favorite Marlboros.
I'm not used to Marlboros being so tiny.
Yeah, they're very cute. They're about 4 feet tall. Like they're short kings, and not just the Marlboro King. So this, if you don't know Final Fantasy, these are things that breathe every status on you. Like they don't do very much damage. This hits you with all the statuses.
Yeah.
They are. So this is about prioritizing your gambits to get rid of the more debilitating statuses. First.
I don't know if you can buy. I don't know if you can buy remedies yet.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have Asuna yet either, which is the spell version of that. So basically, like a lot of my characters ran through this, silenced or with a stone countdown, with them, but they were not blind and they could still attack.
And those panthers, are interesting, interesting enemies because they have, like the curls in previous Final Fantasies, they're hard to hit because they have a status on them called double, which greatly
they're displacer beasts.
Yes, yeah, and they also will hit you with break. So you're fighting a whole bunch of them. They're proccing break a lot, and their entire deal is making it kind of more difficult to hit them and bring them down.
Yeah. Break in this game, as opposed to instantly turning you to stone, gives you a countdown. It kind of varies from Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy. So they're stalling you. In terms of a dungeon, I think there are only really 2 enemies in this. Another one shows up later when you start pushing further into it. But I think both these enemies have solid concepts, which I don't think is true of every enemy in this game.
No.
I think both of these are well designed. There are weird force fields of energy here that we cannot get through. And Fran Balthier taps in Fran, and she creates a mystical bridge to go into a section of the forest.
Yeah.
Where her people live.
Yeah.
We just happen to be on her doorstep.
Yeah. She won't go into the city, into this mystical tree village that we get into, but says, "Hey, seek out this Viera named Murn. She'll know why we're here."
Yes. So when we try to get into the village, the Viera rebuke us. There's this woman named Jote who's there, who tries to stop us, and Fran comes to talk to them, and they're mean girls to Fran because Fran left.
Yeah.
They're teasing her about how she can no longer hear the woods. This also, fantasy cliche stuff. She's an elf.
Yes.
And no longer has her connection to nature.
Yeah. And they say, "Oh, Murn has left too. She headed west. She's wandering among warrens of men who clothe themselves in iron." And Larsa takes this incredibly obvious clue and figures, okay, probably talking about the Imperials with their metal armor, and the nearest warren would be these Henne magicite mines. These places where, it's not as not as big of a vein of the magicite as Bujerba, but they were anticipating something happening, taking away their access to the magicite there.
Yes, and not as big a vein as Vane's veins in the end vein. Vaughn, noticed somebody said, "Oh, Fran, they said you left 50 years ago. How old are you?" And everyone goes, "What?" It's a real, weird modern sitcom joke that the characters do.
It is kind of cute because Vaughn asked this, not realizing that it's incredibly rude, and everybody just walks by him. Most of them just shake their heads. We think one of them says, "Come on," and then Penella says, "You need to grow up, Vaughn."
It's she's not wrong. But also, I don't know, man, you're a mystical, long-lived elf creature.
Yeah.
You don't get to be sensitive about your age. It's just it's also kind of an honest question. How long does this monster that I'm living with live? He just wants the fucking source book.
Yeah. Just am I buying a goldfish or am I buying a parrot? What are we doing? Is
this
here?
A tortoise situation? Yeah.
Do I have to write?
Am I going to bury you or are you going to bury me? What kind of pet rabbit is you? That's the question you're asking with any pet. And that's the great thing about the 10 to 15 year pets is it's a gamble. It keeps it interesting.
Jesus.
Are you going to bury them or are they going to eat your face as you collapse on the toilet floor?
Therein lies the game.
Yeah, the most dangerous game. That's the gambit system. So we go to the mines here, and they introduce. I really hate this mechanic. I know it feels like I'm nitpicking everything. I promise I like this game. There's a thing where chocobos in this game and historically in Final Fantasy are used to avoid random encounters. In this game, you can rent them. They have a timer. And then that allows you to not fight things because people will not fight you when you're on a chocobo. Here they're introducing this idea of hidden paths. You have to look around for these tracks where there are chocobo tracks, and this are bits of geometry you can walk through if you're on a chocobo.
Yeah.
This is the only time it's required, which I appreciate. But the idea of it reminded me of the first time you find a hidden wall in Doom.
Yeah.
So then you have to hump every wall. I just have to now look out for these tracks and then make the decision. Is it worth carrying around Gaiashi greens or finding a chocobo vendor to see if there's a good treasure there or there's 63 gil, through there. It was an irritating chore to do to get this secret wall.
Yeah.
Here. I don't mind this first one because it's story wise and they just tell you, but I did not like it. It was not welcome information to me.
Yeah. If you're going to be engaging with deeper kind of things or going after specific treasure chests that are in a particular area, it's kind of an extra step you have to do. Yeah. Yeah. But this is how you get to the entrance of the mines, which is littered with Imperial troop bodies. Something horrible has happened here.
Yes. The mines are laid out in, a dungeon way. They're going to do this trick a couple times. So weirdly, it's patterned after the big Imperial ship at the end, where there's color coded doors, and they can either be open or closed. These little switch gates, and typically there's an ambush when you hit one of the switch gates. So you get up to a door, you find the little thing to switch it, but then you have to switch it back on your way back. Yeah, there's nothing here that elevates to puzzle. It's not really, it's just kind of a task that you do. It's not a very good dungeon concept to me. No. The monsters here are cool. Finding these nightmare things, these flying creature guys, and then jellies, which we fought before, but are always interesting enemies in Final Fantasy games.
These ones specifically, they multiply as you fight them. Which actually makes this, so those tiny little rooms where the switch gates are, that makes this the most effective AFK grinding area in the game. You set up your gambits so that you do not actually fight them by doing damage. If you kill them with break, if you kill them by having your time mate stone them, then they will just continue multiplying, creating an endless source of EXP and LP for you.
It's because if you kill them, the game does count it. There is an actual counter. They will not spawn unlimitedly naturally, but there's a glitch where break doesn't count as killing them.
Yeah.
So they'll just keep showing up.
It goes by Batman rules.
Yeah, exactly. You had to break your foe. when you get through here, you run to Bjorn, and she is in a mist daze. She's been misted out. She calls Ashe a power-hungry Hume, and sounds like a bad board game. And then dashes off. And this awakens a dragon that we had to fight, this Tiamat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tough boss. Toughest boss we've done so far. Has a lot of HP, all the usual kind of stuff. And we have not really gotten the buffs that we need to deal with that. But periodically casts a spell called Disablega, which will give your party members the disable status. Means that they can move around, but they cannot actually perform any actions. So, that is a huge emergency because you are losing out on DPS. You have to prioritize that.
DPS and healing and support and anything.
Yeah.
A status effect on loan from Final Fantasy Tactics here. When I first played this, I knew about the spell naming conventions of Final Fantasy, but when I played this in 2006, I kept calling this Disablega, which is real silly.
Disablega, yeah.
Yeah, Disablega. Disablega. After you beat Tiamat, Mirren drops the magicite she was holding, and we see this ghostly figure with red eyes above her, which departs. And Mirren, no longer in a mist haze, falls over.
Yeah.
We can talk to her, and she says the Arcadians made her hold this manufactured nethicite, and this misted her up.
Yes. Yeah.
Took the mist into herself.
They kind of did this as a prank on her, knowing that she was a Viera, just kind of to see what it would do.
They're wacky.
So, yeah. These are those wacky Imperials.
Yeah, the actual, Eric Andre is the actual Empire. Like Emperor, once you get through the man behind the man behind the man.
Oh man. So we go back to Fran's village, Erit, saying that out loud makes it sound like I'm doing like a DJ remix sound. Erit.
Do you think that there is mileage in a novelty Twitter account that mashes up Eric Andre pranks with Dragon Quest called Erdrick Andre? That's all about like teasing jockeys into thinking you're racist in public, or like teasing metal slimes into thinking that you're racist in public.
I think that you will be surprised at how much appeal that has, but disappointed in how little it is in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. And how much work it would take. Basically signing myself up for like 10,000 hours of Dragon Quest. And then like a delightful rewatch of the Eric Andre show.
Oh, of course.
So I just had to spread them out. One episode for every 40 hours of Dragon Quest.
You could just do that part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then just watch the show and not do a novelty Twitter account at all. Oh, done.
Let's just watch shows and eat snacks.
Yeah. It's pretty great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pimento cheese. So back to Rit. And Jote hands over Length's Tear, which is what's going to let us go through the force barriers.
Yeah. And then there's a sad scene. Like, this is kind of the only development that Fran gets, apart from being loyal to Balthier. But Mjorn had left. We find out that Fran, Mjorn, and Jote are sisters. And Fran has to convince her, hey, you need to rejoin the Viera. Don't follow my path. You need to forget that I exist.
Yeah, you don't want this.
Yeah.
You want no part of this. I assume there was more to this if I did optional stuff, but I just didn't because I was eyes on the prize a little bit. This is her not her past themelet.
Yeah. The optional stuff doesn't really concern the story at all.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got the fuck out of here. I did not want to go back to Uri. So we go through the Golmore jungle with our magic pass to go through magic barriers, which takes us to a new boss, the Elder Worm, a big plant dragon.
Yeah.
That kind of comes from the ceiling here, who is kind of like a big Marlboro, even though there will actually be big Marlboros later. He does this thing called Spore Fall, which makes all these spores fall from the ceiling that hits you with lots of statuses.
Yes. And it oils you up real good, and it will follow up with a fireball.
Yeah, the power of plants and dragons combined. Finally. Once we get through here, we pass through the Paramina Rift briefly before getting up to Pope Mountain. And Pope Mountain is full of refugees that this Kiltias religious order accepts.
Yes.
This is the Christianity or Catholicism. Like this is the religion that's on offer in this world. And is pretty out of the box fantasy religion stuff.
Yeah. It's refreshingly not terribly concerned with the actual goings on. It is not like a power broker in and of itself. Yeah. It is not the Glabados. Right.
Yes. Yeah. We get a little cutaway here of Vane talking to his father, the emperor. He says, hey, we should probably take out the Senate. This is necessary. And the emperor is like, I don't know about that. So,
basically calls out Vane for saying, hey, you say a lot of sus stuff is necessary.
Yeah.
And
I've read fiction. I understand necessary is never good. It's just semiotics for bad.
Yeah. It just means whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And it's never the right choice.
Yeah. So back down on the mountain, we have a couple of good vendors. This ends up being a vendor you want to stick around for a while if you want to gear up, especially because the magic vendor here sells a lot of next level spells, and spells are very expensive in this game.
Yeah. It's nice that it's right next to a pretty good and easy grinding spot.
Yeah.
If you have to. Like, weirdly enough, in this game, I hate grinding. I usually consider it a fail condition if I have to grind. I did in this game to get money for spells, but it was just walk back and forth in a hallway because of limits. So they didn't make it fun, but they made it painless.
And they made it fast.
Yeah, fast and painless, which is about all you can hope for grinding.
Yes.
You go talk to the Pope here, Anastasius, who speaks out from a dream. This is a gigantic tree man. The proportions of this cutscene are weird. I thought this guy was fucking huge. And then later when he is kind of brought down to size, he's a dude.
Yeah. He's always filmed, God. He's always shown in a close up on his face to kind of show that he is not.
Or from below, like ants eye view.
Yes.
Yeah. But he seems very big.
Yeah. But he's kind of speaking to us saying like, oh, I dream all, and I've seen you in the dream. But we're interrupted when old Spainy McSpainface comes in.
Incredible. Like the guy who helps out Leon in Resident Evil 4 energy.
Luis.
It's very Luis. Like, yes, a beautiful lady has summoned me. What the fuck game are you in, man? What's Gambit doing here? Like, it's very funny.
He's dressed in kind of a modern, flashy way too. He looks almost like he's on loan from Deus Ex. Yeah, he's got sunglasses.
He's got like Ray-Bans on. He is on loan from Deus Ex. Like he's fighting humanity first. This is the Rosarians. We never actually go to Rosaria or deal with them. This is our one representative of this country, and they're fabulous. It's a whole country of absolute flamboyance. He's always has a woman on each arm. It's so funny for how like grounded this story wants to be to have Luis come in and talk about his way with the ladies and shit. It's very funny.
This is kind of the crown prince of Rosaria. This is Alcide Margrace, is his name, of House Margrace. And he's kind of coming here on the down low to speak to us. This is who Larsa told us the riddle about.
He's the frenemy.
Yeah. But he comes bearing bad news. Saying like, hey, we had initially planned, okay, we're going to have you announce that you still live and say like, hey, we're going to take the throne and Rosaria will back you. However, that'll only make things worse. That would have worked with the old emperor, but he's been assassinated. And he says this right in front of Larsa. So 14-year-old boy, daddy done got. So
daddy got and brother did it. That's it. Larsa can figure out he's no fool. We see it. Basically, the emperor has been poisoned, and a senator is on the ground. His throat's been cut, and people rush in. And Vane's like, the senator did it, confessed, and slit his own throat.
He passed his own sentence. Yeah.
Oh, that's not suspicious at all. In a world before forensic medicine, this shit flies. And Vane says that with the sentence in question, he has no choice but to dissolve it and assume autocracy. He's declaring martial law.
Yeah. Saying like, hey, until the situation is stabilized, we got to vest all power in the emperor. So kind of ending any appearance of this being a republic. Judge Drake. Judge Drace, who is MVP, who is way too good to live in this system, calls this out. She says, I don't know how anybody else is falling for this mummer's farce, but I need to arrest this guy. And she draws.
Yep. But Gabranth Zargabranth? Is this a different guy who does it, or is this Gabranth?
No, this is a different guy. This is a more powerful. Yeah,
confusing for them. Yeah. Zargabanth.
Judge Zargabath draws on her, saying, it wasn't just Vane who made himself, the emperor here. It was the Ministry of Law. So you've just drawn your sword on law itself.
On law itself, yeah.
Yeah.
So Vane sends Zargabath and Bergen on the Alexander to go fetch Larsa, and then calls Gabranth in, calls him a stray dog begging for scraps from the Emperor's table, for conferring with him about Vane's doings and secrets.
For conferring with the old Emperor, saying like, hey, I knew what you were doing. You
were talking behind my back. Prove your loyalty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And saying like, okay, you've got the chance to redeem yourself, Judge Magister. We have a criminal here, executor. Drace is on the ground. This is pretty heartbreaking. The director, Ito, came out and said, yeah, no, Gabranth and Drace were involved. Like, this is really knife twisty. And Drace is defeated. She says, I don't care, kill me, but just protect Larsa.
I wish we had spent more time with them.
Yes.
It's fine. It is a good, they're good characters, and it's a good bit. I would have liked to have seen,
yes,
what the director said, as opposed to him telling me.
Yes. Agreed.
Here. So he does, and she dies.
Mm-hmm.
Back on the mountain, Ashe concludes their previous plan would not stop a war with Vane because he wants war. He's basically just searching for an excuse. So they need a way to stop the Nethicite. And Anastasia says that the Dynast King left something with the Kilitas. To do that, the Sword of Kings, which is kept in the still shrine of Miriam.
Yeah. And this is news. And it's kind of a riddle, that they're wondering why would the Dynast King kind of leave the tool for his undoing outside of his family?
Yes. So we have to walk through the Paramina Rift. To get there, there are Yetis and ice elementals. Ice elementals are very difficult. Elementals in this game are fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And we get to the still shrine here. Kilitas is standing at the entrance and asks us to ponder over the nature of the Sword of the Kings, which was not meant to draw blood.
Right.
Basically encouraging us to use it to destroy stones rather than kill people.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I did straight up equip it on people and used it to draw blood.
It's a little bit annoying because it's more powerful than a lot of weapons at this point. And it is a one-handed sword that anybody can use. So if you're doing a specific build, and you cannot actually, for different characters, use auto-equip because it will auto-equip in front of anything else that you're trying to use specifically.
Yeah. Does anything happen if you use it as a weapon?
You know what? I never tried.
I did. I just use it. Nothing. I didn't notice any difference. I just auto-equipped and it's like, oh, you want to use the Sword of Kings? Okay. It's a sword. A Catholic told me not to use it. I don't care. I don't know. I don't believe in this religion. I'm Gary. I live in the real world. And nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
So this is a huge dungeon. Kind of irritatingly, the Dawn Shard is an accessory as well as a key item, and you have to have it equipped in order to do things, which means menu shuffling.
Yeah, it has a really big downside. So it raises your magic defense quite a bit, but it lowers your MP to 0.
Yes, which you could do a build for that. And if you happen to already be doing a build for that, there was no reason for me not to do that. I didn't have my Basch did not use magic.
Yeah.
So I could have just had him use it, but for some reason I wanted him to use other accessories. It wasn't the downside of the no MP that bothered me. It was taking off my counterattack. Accessory.
Yeah.
So a little irritating. So you have to we're trying to make this gigantic statue raise its blade by turning these smaller statues into face it here and going to the end of these hallways, fighting monsters to get to these statues.
Yeah. The first boss that we fight here is this angelic looking kind of mechanical deal that's called Venus Scar. This is a bit of a reprisal or a repeat of the Dark Elf fight in Final Fantasy IV. There's a magnetic field that will put slow on anybody who's wearing heavy armor. And kind of in addition to this, it will constantly cast break, which means it is stalling you. So you have to either equip everybody with light armor, which might not be an option for you, or be really on the ball with your golden needles.
Yeah. Power through the slow.
Yeah.
When you get past this, you get to the chamber with the Sword of Kings. We fight another Esper. Second Esper fight, Mateus.
Yeah.
This is a big fish ice goddess.
Well, the actual
fish with an ice goddess crafted to it.
Yeah, the actual being is the crazy like glyph fish. It tried to fight against the gods, and it figured that it could get through their attacks by basically welding an ice goddess onto it like a human shield. Yeah.
Grafting ill befits a lord is the thing. He has she has little ice Azers with him, little tiny little ice options that cast sleep and blizzard, try to put you to sleep. You want to take them out, and once you do, everything's fine. Mateus is pretty easy.
Yeah, just a matter of designing your gambits to prioritize those smaller things.
Yes. Yeah. Ashe grabs a sword and goes to destroy this piece of nethicite that Larsa gave them, but the ghost of Wrastler stops her. And then she says, "Hey Vaughn, did you see Rex?" At this point, and he says, "No." We take the sword and go to leave, but we see the airship fleet headed towards Pope Town, Mount Bur Omace. And Judge Bergen, the jerk, has killed everybody there.
Yeah.
No real reason, just slaughtered all the religions people in the world. The amazing atheist has struck again.
And by struck again, do you mean I don't know, poured scalding hot oil on his dick again?
Yeah, loves it.
Yeah, don't look anything up about that guy.
No, he's fucking awful. I'm not invoking him because of fandom.
No, I'm not even accusing you of that. It's just
No, I'm clarifying for the listeners. I don't want to be like, "Oh, Gary mentioned this guy," and I'm an atheist, and I like things that are amazing. Like, not this.
But he's killed Grand Kiltius Anastasis himself, and he gives this unhinged speech. He's a true believer in not just Vane's cause, but in Sid's as well. We're going to find out. He's basically reading out of his prayer book, saying, "Oh, manufactured nethicite is the true power of man." Wraithwall, you call him great, but he was just a dog begging for scraps of stone from the gods.
Yes, and we fight him. And his coterie of problematic bachelors. Mildly tricky. He has very high physical resistance. So this was wanted to counter my build and my stubborn persistence. I also did summons during this to get around this, which helped a lot. One thing that's interesting about this, I think I talked about this in generalities, but if I didn't, in my playstyle, which was not optimal, I'm not suggesting it. It made the most sense to give my summons to my healer support unit, because if I gave my summon to another unit, they could not support the summon.
Yeah.
Like the fact that you do not summon your Esper along with the entire party was important. So I spread them out because that felt wise at the time. Like, why not? But in retrospect, I should have just given all of my summons to my time white mage, because then she could haste and heal them.
Yeah, there's some summons. All the ones you get in the story are incredibly weak. Actually,
yes.
They need stupid babies need the most attention. But the stronger ones can be spread around. That's one of the reasons why, like, a lot of my characters, I expect them to be hybrids, was so I could take advantage of the benefit that I get by assigning the Esper to them to get those extra little spots on the license board.
Little extra nodes. There's optimization that you can do that runs counter to it. It's a weird. We talked about this in the first episode about it. Like, it's interesting when a game runs into optimized play versus instinctual play. As a thing, it might be an interesting like topics discussion at some point.
Yeah,
because it's a way that games can be separated. Like, is the way that feels intuitive without any exterior guiding or anything like that, is that viable? It's basically the end boss of the just use the kukri, thing that we talked about on Bonfireside Chat. Like, just do the thing that's correct. There's not things in the game that tell you to do it. You just need to know it. And like, it's an interesting thing because it's something that my instinct is to say, I think that's bad. I guarantee that that's at play in my love of Darkest Dungeon and my love of Monster Train. A lot of games, like deep strategy games, I'm sure that I am forgiving those while getting irritated at this. So I think that I'm probably being a little bit of a hypocrite there.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting thing to chew on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for me, as mentioned in the generalities, I'm a sicko for that in these, in some of these instances, sitting out and looking up the requirements for different jobs in Final Fantasy Tactics and working through charts and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm a sicko for this. So for me, the optimized play, it's not necessarily instinctual because you can just play for, you can play for, drama. So go and role playing this, but Belias served Wraithball, so I'm going to put him on Ashe, his descendant as well. Stuff like that. Yeah.
And you're allowed to. Like it doesn't stop you from playing the main game, but it does stop you from doing the optional super tough content.
Yeah.
Or if not stop you.
Makes
it much harder. So it's just an interesting thing to play with in your head in terms of what it means in terms of design, I think. So
but we defeat him, and this spirit like figure kind of leaves him. This mist departs, and on looking at him, they kind of notice how Bergen had even modified his bones with manufactured nethicite. He was more machine than man.
Yes, hybrid. Alcid stumbles in. Hello, what did I miss? Saying that Gabranth took Larsa, who went along just to avoid trouble, like didn't fight. Which makes sense. Alcid wants to take Ashe back to Rosaria to calm down the War Pavilion, and she says she can't do it. She has to take care of the Dawn Shard, and Alcid throws on his sunglasses and says later, and takes his leave. There. So we're on Shard killing quest now. Because we have the sword that'll do it.
So a stone killing we must go. And to do that, we need to get to Draclor Laboratory, kind of the Imperial Weapons Lab. That's where the Dusk Shard is. Balthier figures. It says, hey, we're going to need to go on foot. There's this big string of zones that we're going to have to pass through to get to the Empire.
Yep. We're in the task zone, a big area with lots of tasks to do. We go through the Mosphoran High Waste, which is not a whole lot to. The Salika Wood, where we have to go talk to Lazy Moogles to finish fixing a bridge. Here, which is cute, but it is just a task. Just go fight things on the way to these things to click on.
I don't care for it.
Little bit irritating here. When you get to the Fawn Coast, we get a one of the few times our characters will talk to each other. Like that's drying up. Balthier asks what Ashe's true intentions are for the Dusk Shard. Again, bringing up that question. Are you lusting for ever greater power, blinded by Nethicite? Is that how you? Or she says, lusting for ever greater power, blinded by Nethicite. Is that how you see me? And he says, it does remind me of someone I know.
Yes.
He's talking about his dad. But he's got a reason to be gun shy about people lusting after magic rocks.
And he lays this out saying, I'm talking about, my father, Dr. Sid. His obsession with Nethicite drove him mad, just to these, it drove him to higher levels of creation. He started making all this stuff, but he did it the entire time talking to this unseen figure called something like Vana or something like that.
I cannot not read it as Venonat. And I want a mod of this game where Venonat is the dark whisperer in Sid's ear. Venonat. That's right. Perhaps I will do that. Venonat. We find out that in a past life, he even made Balthier a judge.
Yes.
And everyone's shocked by this. And he says, as part of his past, he'd rather forget. He got sick of it and ran.
Right.
You cannot outrun your past, though.
Nope.
And he even remarks on this irony, like he tried to run away from this, but he got wrapped up in the stones anyway.
Did all of this running just to get nowhere.
Time to cut ties with my past.
Ashe herself, she recalls the day of her wedding, talking to Rassler about their marriage, saying like, we're just married to join these two kingdoms, but they're clearly fond of each other. It's Mm-hmm. It's not a bad forced thing, right?
Yeah.
And Balthier tells Ashe, like, the choice is yours to make, but don't give your heart to a stone. You're too strong for that. That's like a very well delivered line, Yeah,
it's a great line. For me, it's still in the pile of like, there's no doubt about what she will do.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like she'll convince her. It's something that's let down by the level of register of the story.
Yes.
To me, or not register, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fable like nature we are in.
Yes.
Like, of course she's not going to do that. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
We get up to the, I don't know how to pronounce this. Chitaita uplands, and we find a kid who's looking for hunters. This is weird. He's got a hunting bill. This is part of the critical path.
Mm-hmm.
If you're following the critical path here and you haven't been stopping to do hunts, this is a real, like, remember there are hunts kind of moment. Like, I've just gone and done a bunch of dungeons. But this is critical path. He's talking about there's something, he doesn't know what it is. It's holed up in the Sochin Cave Palace, which is where you need to go.
Yeah.
And he gives you the key. You have to talk to him.
This is a function of the world being open. You can walk here, I believe, outside of the introduction where you're stopped by the people who keep you from getting into the Ester Sands. You can get up here. This is stopping you from actually going into the Empire because the only way on foot is through the Sochin Cave Palace. He gives you the key to get in there when you take this fake hunt.
Yeah. So we go into the cave, this subterranean route that'll get us to the capital, but we have to do that hunt first. And this is a cute boss.
Yeah.
This little gang called Mandaraga Royalty, which are all these little Mandaraga guys, little pumpkin head, like little fucked up little dudes.
Yeah. Well, mandragoras. Yeah.
Yes. Really cute. Incredibly cute. And there's 5 of them. So it's kind of tricky. And they're kind of like, from a mechanical sense, like some of them are designed to annoy, like run away from you and stuff, which is a little bit obnoxious. They each have their own little elemental weakness. And it's something that gets progressively easier.
Yeah.
As you take them out. And they leave a little ghost when they die. All their ghosts leave their body and fly up into the sky,
like
to go to heaven.
Angels going to heaven. Yeah. Little vegetable men. It's adorable.
It's what happens whenever you eat salad. I would go to a restaurant where Mandragora Royalty was a dish. And you just get 5 little vegetables that run around your plate until you kill them.
Scream all you want. I'm gonna saute you.
You're going to my belly. You're getting tableside.
Yum. But this is the opening boss. There's not much to this level. These caverns, you get into like these little fungus areas. There's some optional business you can do with diverting waterfalls around to get a powerful katana, things like that. But ultimately, this is a straight shot through to the last boss of the area, guarding the other side, which is a ghost called Ahriman.
Yes. Something that's a regular enemy in other Final Fantasies.
Yeah.
Or the name of. So he's very evasive. He puts doom on your party when you first come in, which is a countdown very similar to Petrify.
Yeah.
Just a longer countdown. And he likes to do immobilize and confuse, again, to try to round up the clock.
Yes.
On you. Not very difficult.
Confuse is devastating, especially because your party hits really, really hard in a way that your armor doesn't account for, really. If you're hitting enemies for a couple of thousand, you're going to be hitting your own party for a couple of thousand.
There's an enemy, I don't remember who previous to this, who did confuse. So confuse was already part of my instant heal gambit setup. So this did not affect me very much. But it is something where if you don't have, I can't remember what you use to get rid of confuse. It's like a sand or a salad.
No, it's a sand. It is like knee something sands. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the bizarre item that you get calls it like various salts. So I think it's like smelling salts. Actually, is what it's emulating. Yeah,
would make sense. But I had already stocked up on those and set up my gambits for it because of some wandering monster like 2 zones ago. When we get through, we don't emerge into the proper city. We emerge in the underclass, old Arcades. So all the poor people live very hilariously. So one of the things that they do, we talked about treasure in this game. In old Arcades, where everyone is poor and starving to death, the way they communicate this is by having unopened treasure chests that only have a couple dollars in them. everywhere. It's very funny. Like, this is the poor neighborhood where there's just some money on the ground.
Why would you buy these expensive magical chests to hold 4 gil?
It's so funny. Like, I just kept finding these chests. I was like, oh, they're trying to tell me this area is poor because they're like, their freestanding outdoor chests don't have very much money in them. It's very artificial and silly.
Take the chest.
Yeah. Like, I don't know why these people are not, eating. To get to this passage above, we need to work with one of Balthier's old friends, Jules, who doesn't speak. It's real weird that it's not a speaking part. I was very surprised that he's just text. And Balthier's onto him, you're doing this for your own reasons. You're not to be trusted. Yeah. He's basically has us run these errands, and he's doing it to get information on us. Ultimately, the biggest piece of information that Balthier is back.
Yes.
In town.
Yeah. This whole, like, Draclor is fine to me. But anything in the city of Arcadies, old or new, is just errands, because we get up to the, to the modern city with all the, air cars or whatever. And the taxi won't take us along because we have to present them 3 pine chops.
Yeah. This used to be worse. So, this is a Zodiac Age improvement. There used to be, you had to get more of them. And they were this little mini game you do was a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
Here, there's something to be, again, just in a game design question. Like, it is a virtue to break up gameplay. You do not want to just be going through dungeons and fighting things. I think in Final Fantasy XII, the things that they do to break that up are uniformly pretty crappy.
Yeah.
They're very rarely are there things that feel, other than like, when they break up bad fights with good fights, that's really good.
Oh yeah. Then you're golden, baby.
Yeah. That's great. Like that is legitimately good. Like, you don't have to pay attention during these fights. This fight you do have to pay attention to. That's really fun. It's a system that is made for good fighting. When you have to actually get engaged and when you're hands off. When they break it up with go run these errands to solve this like Zelda-esque, just like the torches puzzle, or here are some switches you have to flip to go through a door, just make sure you flip it.
Yeah.
It pretty irritating to me. This is that.
This one and the I'm Basch von Ronsenberg, captain of Damaska. Those are both annoying to me because doing anything where you're talking to people in town, interacting with people, using the interface to like highlight and see their name and stuff. That's not a good interface. And the game, as we said in the first episode, is kind of training me not to care about these people and their little lives.
Yeah. And that one, that game is very arbitrary because you want to go to greater groups of people and you want to avoid soldiers, but sometimes you'll go up to a group of 3 or 4 people and they'll just be like, I don't give a shit. You're a bronzered kid. Of course you're not Basch. And it's just kind of arbitrary which ones will work. Yeah. This one is all about gathering morals of story and then telling people them. Like you go and you talk to somebody and they say, oh, I did this thing and I learned this. And then you tell that lesson to somebody else.
Yeah.
Really easy in the Zodiac Age version, does not take very long. In the original version, this was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
This allows us to get directly to Draclor Laboratory. This is, you and I separate here. I find the gimmick of Draclor Laboratory really irritating. Just because it's so artificial. It just feels so like, why aren't there teleporter traps here? If there's going to be these bulkheads that don't make any sense in these hallways that just have dead ends. Like, I hate dungeon design in this genre. It is like one of my least favorite things. Yeah. They're just hallways. Like when you first get there, it's fine. The guards have all been killed. That's a cool moment. The mist is here. It makes our mini map all distorted, here. But the gimmick here is that there are red and blue bulkheads. Only one can be opened at a time.
Yeah.
So typically, like what will happen is you'll run into a red door. You cannot get through it. There'll be a little side door that you go through where you switch the bulkheads and now you can go through it. There's not puzzle content to it. And there's not anything here other than these rooms with these identical bulkhead controls. Like, JRPG, make a space feel like a space challenge, failure for 30 years. Like, there's no reason for these hallways. It's just weird. Like this bulkhead protecting a dead end that doesn't have anything in it.
Yeah. There are spells. There are good spells you can get here. Dependable drops from chests, in addition to weapons and stuff. Going and getting those things, going up and down floors on those, kind of does break down a little bit into a kind of a logic challenge.
A little bit. Knowing what the door status is when you go to a new floor.
Yeah.
There's a little bit to that. You have to do that for the critical path as well to get forward, but it's just not most of the time, 4 times out of 5, you are just changing the thing to get access to a hallway that doesn't have anything at the end.
Yeah.
It's irritating to me as a space because laboratory, I hear, laboratory and I think cool, I think Magitech Factory or better. It's a weird thing that happens specifically in the PS2 generation of JRPGs kind of forward, where when they switch to pre-rendered backgrounds as opposed to sprites, there's this necessary conservation of detail in it. Like the Magitech Factory is also just hallways, with some conveyor belts, but it's mostly hallways. But it looks like there's more going on. This felt really featureless and sterile in a way that didn't feel like a lab. To me.
I think this is ultimately breaking down the lines of this didn't bother me and it bothered you.
Yeah. It's just, it's not the worst one in this game or anything. It's just very emblematic of like what I say when I mean I don't like dungeons in this genre.
Yes. Yeah.
Featureless hallways with a gimmick that is not usually a puzzle. Like this one edges into it, not particularly challenging. It just gives you a task to do, an animation to wait through while you go through the door and press the button to switch the bulkheads.
Yeah.
I don't know what it adds. Yeah. So when you get through here, eventually we get to the place where Sid's lab is. Balthier looks through his father's notes and he's reminded Sid started losing his mind after visiting a specifically dense area of mist.
Yes.
That's where he met Venonat and started going crazy.
Yeah. Noteworthy here is that the area is not necessarily crawling with the guards that we were told to expect. It kind of has a little bit of feeling of like a less gory, Metal Gear Solid hallway before the ninja. Somebody's gone through here and killed a lot of these guards while leaving just enough for us to deal with as we go around. And when we reach the top floor, we meet this person who came in ahead of us. He attacks us, kind of the strange looking guy. But he realizes, hey, we're not Sid's lackeys. He is a sky pirate named Redis.
Yes. This game loves a Deus Ex dusky foreigner to come in that has not been established. Yeah. Like Redis is so funny. Like a funny voiced guy who's very, very fucking tough and cool just shows up here. So as we're talking to Redis, Sid interrupts us, and Redis is here to take out Sid.
Yes.
He is on his own Final Fantasy 12. He calls Sid crazy for fucking with the Nethicite. He knows that Nethicite is what blew up the Leviathan and leveled Nabadis. So he's accused him here.
Yes.
And Sid recognizes his son, and he's not happy to see that he's there, but he's happy that the princess is there because he's a psychopath. Sid, I think, is really elevated by his performance.
Oh, yes.
I think this is I think between Sid and Balthier, these are the two best voice acting jobs.
Oh, yeah.
In the game. And I think that like what Sid says isn't super impressive. Like he's just Hojo, like he's just another evil scientist Final Fantasy villain, but he's elevated by his performance. Yeah. Which is really good.
Yeah, he's he's scenery chewing without being like cackle and twist a mustache kind of evil, which is good. Both him and Balthier play off of each other very well. Yeah,
they both have that they both have a theatricality to them and like a flourish that makes them seem related.
Yes,
so hands down the best two characters in the game, IMO.
Yeah. But he decides to fight us. He uses Nethicite to activate his weapons. This is one of the goofiest fights in the game, at least visually, because he summons down. He has a Gatling gun that's twice as big as him.
It's real silly. it's very Metal Gear Solid Revengeance.
Yeah.
It's extremely silly. After we take him, we fight him. As we go to fight him, Redis goes to leap on him. But Venat puts up a shield. He's got this spirit over his shoulder that takes care of him. Venat reveals itself. It's this ghost that we've seen before.
Yeah. I love the way Venat and the by extension the other Ikuria look in their kind of natural manifested form. The fact that all that we see is this weird cocoon, like a geometrical cocoon kind of shape with a black cutout for the face, but all we can see is the glowing eyes. Nothing moves when it's speaking in this otherworldly kind of meter It's a great way to kind of portray this force. On Venat. So we'll see this when we get to the Acuria, but the difference between Venat, who speaks an iambic pentameter, that is different than the other Acuria, which will speak in iambic tetrameter. Something like
tetrameter.
Yes.
They both speak in an interesting stilted way.
Yes.
These things they're pretty cool. Yes. The presentation of them is good. Mm-hmm. He has 4 little options, these things called rooks that buff him up, which you have to take out.
Yeah.
And then partway through, he puts up a paling, so he becomes immune to physical attacks for a little while. Paling is something, it means a shield, but it's a proper noun term that was way back in the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm. Used. He has a personal one. It's usually made to defend a city, right?
Yes.
And then after the fight, he hops onto his little flying machine and says, "Oh, if you're looking for Nethicite, you can get all you want. Just go to the ancient city of Giravegan." And Balthier, it kind of takes a beat after his dad flies away. It's like, oh, he's always doing that. But then it's like, oh, well, I guess Venat is real after all. Shit.
Yeah. He thought it was his dad's imaginary friend, basically, like his dad's psychosis.
Right.
It is idiot ball that the characters are like, oh, the villain told us to go somewhere. Let's do it.
Yep.
Redis calls it out, which is good, but it's stupid that everyone in our party decides to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
We're entering the zone.
Yeah.
Where you start going to zones, just mystical realms in the game. First, we go to the Balfonheim port here. We get a little interlude talking about the Arcadian military. It's thriving under this dictatorial rule because it's the end of Act 2.
Yeah.
Andor's resistance is mounting ever further. That war is heating up.
Yes. Yeah. But at Balfonheim, this is Redis's little pirate fortress that he is the king of, all these people without countries who gather here. He says, hey, Andor came by and spoke to me saying, Andor was the one who put him up to infiltrating the capital to steal the stone for the resistance to use. Saying like, hey, if we don't get this advantage, if we don't get this Nethicite, to match theirs in this arms race, then we're going to go, inside with Rosaria. We're going to force this war. We're going to use an empire against an empire.
Yes. This means that destroying the Dust Shard is still the best play. We have to do this. We figure Sid has the stone and he's heading where he said his turn signal said he was going right.
Mm-hmm.
So of course he's going right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to head there. To the area where he lost his mind initially, get to that city he told us to go to. Redis also plays the drama card, whether Ashe is going to use the stone or not, whether she wants power or not. She says she does want power, but she's afraid. And he says, remember Nabudis.
Yeah.
It's a big nuke stone.
Yeah.
Remember everything that's happened in the game.
Remember what that does to cities and stuff.
Yeah. You dummy dumb. There's Redis's 3 little weirdos who you meet here. Like, what is up with these guys?
I don't know. Like, they're you do spend a lot of time with them. They didn't care enough about them to voice them, but there is a lot of back and forth of these people talking about how cool Redis is.
It is a real hilarious Wader Brothers, like just in the middle of nowhere. In this,
we need to start referencing a better. I think you should leave sketch.
It is like arguably the worst one, but it's so apt. Things are constantly doing hilarious Wader Brothers, just like pointless shtick to keep lips moving. I kept expecting their position to kind of like they're going to be a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Like they're going to be like commenting on what's going on here. But even your characters don't really talk to them. You go stand next to them while they talk to each other. It's really weird.
There's 6 people here. Funny. You said there'd be 4 people here.
Yeah, but Redis can handle it. Well, what Redis can't handle is what he doesn't know. But what he doesn't know, can he handle it? Like they're just going on about this bullshit. It's so weird. So this is our last little town. We have to go here. We're going to keep coming back here. This is where you want to stock up.
Yes.
There are areas around it where you can do hunts, but typically everything that's going to be available in stores, all the best stuff is available here.
Yeah. Any better gear than you can buy here is going to be found as a result of quests or by finding it in chests and stuff.
In the field.
Yeah.
So we're heading to the Feywood. We're in the Realm Zone. You head south through Golmore and Paramina to reach the Feywood, these snowy woods that are shrouded in mist. Before you get into it, we fight this boss called Rafflesia.
Yeah.
In this field that drains our MP.
Yeah. Throws out tons of status effects and summons Malboros. This is kind of a reprise of the ancient worm fight.
Yes. Yeah. When you take him out, we get the Feywood Candle, which allows us to get further into this and go into this puzzle zone where you go to these little pagoda, or these little, not pagoda. What's the word I'm looking for? Gazebo. Thank you. These little gazebos, and look for the illusion. So you turn around in the gazebo, look for the area that looks verdant and follow that.
Yes. Yeah. And the final test is there's the big sealed gate that talks about only the power of the Gigas can open this. And you have to summon Belius, your first Esper here, one of the two that you're guaranteed to have at this point. And this opens the gates to the ancient city of Giravegan.
Yes. When you get here, we're in a realm. Mm-hmm. It's a mystical zone, on this abandoned shore when you first start here. And the structure of the city is the stone that stretches upwards. And we start teleporting around rather than walking around. Mm-hmm. We go up to this portal. We have to fight this boss that is a statue named Daedalus. This powerhouse, it has Berserk on it, so it's just going to attack you, and has physical resistances that get better as his health goes down.
Yeah.
Tough stuff.
It is a non-Newtonian liquid.
Yes.
It puts up more resistance. Butter. Yeah.
Skippy.
We get inside and, we're inside the city, which is this kind of a logical space, these kind of curving pathways, moving up and down around the Great Crystal, which we see in the center, kind of illuminated by all the glowing pathways around it. To go forward, we need to find these little paths that are not on the map. You have to step on the right ledge in order to make the energy bridges appear.
Yes. Which in practice just means humping the wall.
Yeah.
Go around the perimeter until it lets you do it. These are big, long paths, and typically they're just enemies at the end of nodes. Mm-hmm. It's real. I found it irritating, not a major irritation, but a minor irritation to try to check these for treasure.
Yeah.
I knew there would be high level treasure here.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that indicates critical path versus non-critical path in this, which is, again, a genre staple for this. But you go through here and collect some high level equipment as well. At least the treasure chest economy has gotten better.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah.
You get to the top of the city, we fight a dragon named Tyrant. We're on this magic field, so we can't use techniques. Which is, I'm not really using techniques.
No, I cannot imagine a build that relies on them.
Yeah. It's, some of them sounded, neat, but the ones that sounded the most neat, you had to find.
Yeah.
They're not available in stores. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
And he uses a status effect called Sap, which is a big deal. Sap is like a fast draining poison that is harder to cure. You have to use Asuna.
Yeah. Or have the remedy lore, basically power that up using an augment on your characters.
Yes.
Yeah. And the warp behind the tyrant here takes us into the Great Crystal itself, which is a visually very cool space. We're kind of tunneling through here. We don't have to see the majority of this. This is like a 3D maze kind of deal. There's one way you can go that takes you into the challenge portion of the dungeon, where ultimately you would fight Ultima. I think that's all. Yeah, you fight Ultima there. And that is way, way, way past endgame. You're not going to be ready for that.
Yes. Ashe remarks, she says, oh, there's all this nethsite here. With all that nethsite in one's grasp, ... And Fran says you could destroy all of Evilis. Ashe constantly needs to be reminded what nukes are. No. The tempting object is bad.
Yes.
Ashe.
I understand the stove is pretty. It glows red. However, if one were to touch
you do not touch the stove. Yeah. You are much more likely to kill a family member with a nethicite in your house than you are an intruder. A good guy with a nethicite is a fiction told by Fox News.
It's really fun to go to the nethicite range, and just take out a couple of Potemkin cities.
Yeah, a couple cities. Yeah. But nobody lives there.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you don't live fire nethicite.
But we navigate around this kind of around these paths and ultimately reach the top where our third Esper attacks us. This is Shemhazai, the Whisperer. Amazing design on this. It's like a centaur, like a mechanical centaur lady,
like a centaur with a chess piece instead of a horseback.
Mm-hmm.
It's really like half chess, half horse.
Yeah,
half human. It's really strange. Her whole thing is she has rotating elemental weaknesses, and she'll silence your party, which I got around by punching her with swords. Like silence this. It's an axe. It was not super tough for my build.
Right.
I can imagine if I did a very highly magic reliant build, this would be more tough.
Yeah. Agreed. I just I thought I forgot this gimmick to her, and I thought, yeah, she is weak to poison. Figuring, okay, she's Sagittarius, so that's a water sign. Okay, here we go. Cool, because all of the Espers correspond to a zodiac sign, including the oft forgotten Ophiuchus. But then my lightning started healing her. I was like, yes, but alas.
But yeah, you overthought it, Cole. So after we beat her, this Waystone, we get her as well. You can summon her. She's really interesting because her element is soul, right? Is that her or is that the next one you get? I think it's forget. Her. Like she sucks out souls, and then as her main attack, and then her ultimate attack depends on how many people she's done that to.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Not super efficacious, but interesting.
But regardless, we do end up getting Shemhazai into our party, and use her as much as you see fit.
Yes. Yeah. After you beat her, we find this Waystone that talks to us. It says, by this path and no other, reach ye the round of the undying, walk of the chosen.
Yes.
And when this happens, Ashe appears on this platform, floating in this white cloudy void surrounded by statues, alone, because we're now in another zone. It's realms within realms, Russian nesting realms, where the Ocuria talk to her. These are the gods or these ancient spirits. They're not quite gods. They're like Venat.
Yes. Venat used to be one of them. He's still the same thing that they are, but he was one of their order who defected. We're going to learn.
Reminds me a lot of Control. With the board and the I can't remember, the constant or whatever it's called, the thing that used to be part of the board.
Oh yeah,
that you run into in Control.
Yeah, the founder. Yeah,
Foundry.
Yes,
the founder. Yeah, something like that. Foundation.
Yeah, foundation. There we go.
I think that's it. Yeah. We ran out of words with the found prefix, so it wasn't that impressive. We had to get to it eventually.
The foundling. Yeah,
it could have been the foundling. That was the last one. So
yeah. But they're speaking to her, and Ashe is here because she is chosen. She has been walking in the footsteps of the Dynast King. They know that she seeks power, and they're going to grant it to her. All she has to do is go to this thing called the Suncrest and this tower on a far shore. And this is the mother of all Nethicite, from which all of the power of these stones flows.
Yeah, big rock. And she has to do what the Dynast King did, which is use something called the Tree Blade to cut off shards of it. This is how you get Dawn shards and the like. This is going to allow her to become a new Dynast Queen.
Yeah.
Once again, these are the Ocuria, these things, and they're shaping history. They're basically trying to influence man.
Yeah. She points out, how is this any different from what Venat's doing with Vayne? It's one of you. And they freak out. Immediately their tone changes and their eyes glow red. He's a heretic.
Yeah, they scream at you.
Yeah. The Nethicite is ours to give, to chosen bearer or to none. The heretic trespassed and set the rose of knowledge in man's hand. With imitations they profane it. It is anathema to us.
Yeah. They want to pull the strings. They do not like this manufactured bullshit.
Right.
Wrestler appears, and he tells Ashe to administer judgment to wipe Arcadia off the map. Basically, continue warmongering.
Yes.
And this game will answer the question whether war is good or bad. The Ocuria call mankind foolish, too short-lived to do anything but skew history's weave. You are but gnats compared to us. Ocuria, they disappear. And the party walks up to Ashe. They did not see any of this stuff.
No.
She's just been having a flashback. They heard the words, but they could not see the Ocuria.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks that she should destroy Arcadia.
Yeah, there are people there. Like, yeah. A thing about the Acuria, we kind of glossed over this scene, but it's pretty important and pretty cool, I think, because they speak in that cool in that fucked up meter. That is another thing that is entirely a product of
localization.
I forget what they did in Japan. Oh, in Japan, they had them just speaking regular Japanese, except it was heavily filtered. So it was almost impossible to hear, almost exactly like the board in Control, actually.
Yeah.
Based on my understanding of it. But they figured, all right, well, nothing's mouth is moving, so we actually have as much time to do something that we want. What if there is a better way to make this,
seem alien?
Yeah. Make it seem alien that wasn't just using a filter. And so that's why they decided, well, let's try and write an iambic tetrameter.
Yeah. Localization all-stars.
Yes.
In this game, like one of the better localizations in terms of choices.
Yeah.
Not just performance, but in terms of creative choices. Like, I think that if you were to teach a class on localization, this game would be a really good text for that.
Yes.
In the artistry of localization, not just the craft of it.
Right.
Balthier realizes he's an idiot. Sid was never come here. He said he was going to, but he didn't. His signal said right. He laid out the bait we bit. He wants Ashe to get the treaty sword and cut the stone so he could take parts of it.
Yes.
He's just doing the villain thing. Like, you go do the work for me.
Yeah. Balthier figures, he's beyond wanting to help the Empire. He just wants to see what happens when stone goes against stone. He's wrong. And we're going to see this because we cut over to the Empire. Vane is trying to convince Larsa that the upcoming war is one of necessity. And it's going worse than when he said this to his dad. Larsa's like, no, you're mistaken about what you think about Ashe. Kind of thinking that Vane is talking in good faith. A little bit like, no, you have to just she wants peace. The person you're describing is not the person that I traveled with. So Vane says, hey, Gabranth, why don't you go find out if Ashe truly wants peace? Hey, person who killed her dad, go see how chill she is.
Person who killed her dad. And so Lars leaves. Sid comes in. He says, hey, the party took the bait. He no longer cares about the gods and their stones. He's learned that the mother lode, this mother nethicite, and he knows the party will lead him to it.
Yeah.
He wants the power.
Right.
He doesn't want the little stones. He wants the big magic rock.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks to Venat. Venat respects him.
Yeah.
And Vane, saying like, your time is near. I believe in your abilities to end the rule of the Acuria. Basically, you're going to do the Age of Dark ending.
Yes.
And he something I do like about this game is that Venat, like the Acuria, are just behind the scenes, man is puny. Cliche. But Venat being on man's side and that being the villainous action, I think is interesting.
Yeah. And the way that you end up doing what he wanted anyway, but just in a, with less corrupt intention than Vane is really interesting to me. Venat's relationship with Vane and Sid is really well portrayed, I think. You expect him to be a cackling Satan type figure. No, it's a little bit more
respectful.
Yeah.
He's polite. Like something that's otherworldly but still uses manners is always cool. Like it's a cool inversion of the cliche.
Yes.
So we go back to Balfenheim port, and because the party decides that Redis probably knows something about this tower on a forest shore, they return. They find him. He's angry because he lost a lot of his ships to a very powerful Yagd off of Ridorana.
Yes.
Yeah. This is behind the scenes. We took a long pause and I talked to my vet. This has been the Olympics of fucking code switching for me of like just going into modes of making jokes about Final Fantasy 12 and then hearing medical news about my cat.
Yeah.
And just rapidly switching between the two of them has been difficult. So apologies for getting tripped up on my words.
Yeah. It's understandable. But yes, they lost these ships. There's something going on this coast. We share our plan, saying, hey, we're going to go. We need to shatter this sun crest, depower the deified nethicite. Who knows what this is going to do with the manufactured stuff? Like if there's any connection there, but at the very least, this takes away the Dawn Shard, or the Dusk Shard, rather.
Yep. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Basch says the other thing is that we could do what the Okaria ask. Like if we want to be evil, take the shards and use them to put down our Arcadia. And Redis, who is too pure for this world, is like, no. The only good thing to do with Nethicite is put it in the trash.
Yeah,
that seems like a bad idea because anybody could find it.
That's the thing.
But, yeah, but the thought is there.
Exactly. The only good thing to do with the Nethicite is to take an ancient sword that was made to destroy it and then destroy it.
Yeah. We have the thing that kills the One Ring. the only good thing to do with the One Ring isn't to throw it on the ground.
Yeah. Just put it by the curb. The guys will take it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Drive it out to the dump.
Yeah.
So Redis gives us a Sky Stone they stole from Drachlor, which will allow us to fly through the mist. And Ashe asks Redis why you're doing this, why you're helping us.
Yeah.
And he says, Nabudai, this wasn't my home, but I saw what happened there.
Yeah.
And it fucked me up.
There's more to it that we're going to learn. Redis has a cool backstory. Yeah. But we depart. Now we can choose from the airship map to go to this place called the Ritterana Cataract. Really cool location. It is this island atop of a seemingly endless waterfall. Like imagine an ocean, but an ocean fall. Neat.
Yes.
And this lighthouse is a huge square tower, like a multi-layered tower sticking out of it.
Yep. Balthier starts setting himself up for a sacrifice here. He tells Vaughn, if I just do something stupid and heroic because I'm the leading man, you get my ship.
Hadn't teach you how to fly it, but you know how leading men are.
Yep. And I was like, oh yeah, Vaughn wants a ship. That was his trait. I hadn't thought about that in 30 hours. So we fight another dragon at the foot of this tower. This is Hydro.
We already fought Nitro.
We have Nitro and Lightning. Ice. We fight Hydro. He does the Doom status effect. And then he has a skill called Firga, which drains the MP around you. I think they're starting to rely on this trick of giving you Doom and then trying to delay you or stop you from being able to address it a little bit too much. There's an element to the combat system in Final Fantasy XII that I respect, but I also think at some point does kind of show the seams, and it's the modular nature of it. Like everything operates on these status effects and buffs.
Yeah.
And enemies and your characters do. That's something I like generally, but you don't run into as often in this game. Eventually it does happen. In the main path of the game, the weird rule breaking shit that happens. I'm thinking about like Final Fantasy VI, like where the end boss can do that fallen one attack and everybody goes to 1 HP. Like these things that are not known statuses.
Yes.
A lot of characters do known statuses. In this game.
This is especially egregious because it feels like it's the fourth one in a row that does this trick.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a thing where like, and this is again, control, weird touch point for this game, but where the play is losing me in this game a little bit. But I'm drawn in as the plot ramps up.
Yeah.
So like this series of disconnected realms we're going to, I am way less interested in than when we're in places made by people that are not just a mystical realm. And it feels like we've been in the realm zone since the woods, like we just consistent realm zone, very similar bosses. Like it just kind of starts showing a little bit of age.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword having everything play by these rules. And it wouldn't be a Final Fantasy game if we didn't stop worrying about places and started worrying about realms.
Yeah.
You're always going to go into realms.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I don't know anybody who goes to bat for, let's say Garavegan onward, but especially things happening at the Pharos.
I think this sucks the stars from the sky.
Yeah.
Like one of the worst in class dungeons in the genre.
It's real. It's really something. I don't know anybody who defends it at the very least in good faith or not, to be contrarian when somebody raises a point against it.
Non-sickos.
Yeah.
There's like it is conventional wisdom that this game gets bad at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think that's quite true because I like this stuff with, it's not surprising to me. I'm disappointed with it being a moral question or a plot question, whether Ashe will use the power or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The way that all articulates is adventuresome and fun.
Yes.
And I think Sid is cool. And I think that, that stuff's all very neat.
Mm-hmm.
From a gameplay perspective, though, it gets kind of crummy.
It's fatiguing, ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, again, kind of a genre thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very hard for me to think of an example of the genre that I don't get fatigued by the end. I'm never pumping my fist on the last disc.
I'm on B10 of the Lunar Dungeon now.
Yeah. Yep. Not super fun.
Yeah.
So you fight this thing. We get to the door out of this tower. It has a stone with ancient writing. This is by Wraithwall.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Watcher, the ward of the three waits, soul hungry, unsated, he without power wanted not, he with power trusted not, he with sight heeded not, rend illusion, cut the true path.
Yes.
Nice poetry to say that you're going into a puzzle realm here.
And here we are. This is a gigantic tower that is cut up into 3 sections, each with its own little navigation gimmick. And you are going to be spending hours here.
Yes. This is too big.
Yes.
And none of the best gimmick, I think, is in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of interest, the gimmicks are not super good.
Yeah.
This first one, the idea is you have to get these black orbs to power these altars. Enemies drop them. This is purely an interface thing.
Yeah.
But a weird frustration thing is that if you're playing in fast forward mode, which you can do here because these enemies, non-boss enemies, are still not very tough. Like my gambits basically took care of it.
Yeah.
So I was walking through in fast forward. The orbs are on a timer.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't adjusted based on your fast forward. So they disappear really fast.
Yeah. Additionally, if you are in regular forward speed, they will appear, but they will not be interactable for a little while after they appear.
There's like a beat.
Yeah.
And then you have to wait for the message for when you pick them up. It's a minor friction.
Mm-hmm.
It just adds up.
It does. Yeah.
This is also something that got better in Zodiac Age. You used to need way more of these.
Oh, yes.
I'm really glad they cut this down.
Yeah. As opposed to just like, hey, go the gimmick of
farm.
this, the gimmick of this area is farming. Yeah.
Yeah. The farming you've been doing, do some more. This game is about farming. Let's tie together the themes.
Yeah. Do some more for this item that elsewhere will sell for 1 gil.
Yeah. Frustrating.
Yeah.
So you do this eventually, you get through this door, and we go into, again, realms upon realms.
Mm-hmm.
When you get through these things, you enter into like little instance zones that are geography from elsewhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like I recognize these. I don't know if they're meant to evoke those things or if they are reuses.
Yeah. Or
I am going to a spirit version of them, but they're different. They're geography that you've been to before, and you fight bosses.
Yes.
This first one is a big stone turtle named Pandemonium.
Mm-hmm.
His gimmick is partway through the fight, he makes himself invulnerable. So it becomes like you survive for a portion of the fight rather than do damage. Not too big of a deal here. The second portion, you have to destroy these brain pan enemies that are here that are green. You have to find the specific green ones because they bring up parts of bridges.
Yes.
It's not farming, but it is just Roombaing up all the buttons to press, essentially.
Yeah, and you have to ride the flee button, because if you end up getting close to a red, it's like a red version of these enemies. Yes. They're called something else. Killing a red one will make a section of the bridge leave. So you're kind of counteracting yourself, and you have to go spawn a new green one to undo that.
Yeah, not particularly inspired gameplay.
Yeah.
The second realm we go into, or the third nested realm, is a giant angel lizard called Slit, which is the name of a band written on a Trapper Keeper if I've ever heard one. Slit with a Y.
SLYT. You fight this guy.
You cruise for Slit.
Don't say
it's
that.
Fucking gross.
Bleep it, no, I'm not going to bleep it. It's uncouth.
It is my edit as well. I'll bleep what I want. Every time you say Basch, I'm going to bleep it.
I didn't drop those markers.
Really spice up the mystery.
Yeah. But they're kind of like, for most of these bosses, they're out of ideas here until they get to the end. His big complication, he just always has a really powerful regen up, so you just have to overtake that.
Yep. You either have to out DPS it or really ride Dispel, which will keep it down for a time.
Yeah.
The second ascent, this is the Reach of Diamond Law. The way this works is that there are 4 stones you can activate that will disable something you can do, and then you need to remember which one you did.
Yeah.
So you either can not use weapons, not use spells, not have a mini map, or not use items here. This is good, like, because these are all meaningful. The easiest one to me was items, because I had spells that could take care of it. The idea of doing it without the mini map, so I could not take a direct path to something. Fucking kills me because this is a big irritating maze with respawning horse creatures you fight. And then doing it without spells, like, that would be fine if it's just offensive and you can make up with items, but I didn't want to rejigger all of my gambits.
Yeah, I really relied a lot on magic at this point.
Yep.
Because MP is cheap because you have all those different augments that will let you recover it under different conditions.
No, I mean, it also we didn't really talk about that in generalities, but it's actually hugely important in this game. It regenerates by walking around.
Yeah.
The way the gambits in this game work, it would not work if it took a resource to reheal your MP every time. It's the reason why the AFK strategies work. And that your characters can do this charge move, which has a chance of failure, but will give them, it's like a chance at using an ether, basically. So it's a renewable resource, unlike items. So getting rid of items seems to be the better one, or the optimal one to me.
The boss here, this one, the third of the watches, is Fenrir, this big Siberian tiger man. Literally no gimmick to it. He just hits real hard.
Yep, he's a big guy. This brings us into the third realm, the Meat of Destiny. And this has all these platforms with colored crystals with these waystones on them. You touch the stones in the right order to warp upwards. And if you get this wrong, you get sent to a penalty floor with the undead.
I didn't realize how funny the phrase penalty floor was until you read it out loud.
You go to the timeout zone. This is these undead give you disease. Disease is not cured by Asuna. It's cured by an item that's kind of rare. So you want to avoid disease. Disease means you cannot be healed while you have it, which is a big deal. Typically, when a character got diseased, I would kill them and res them to get rid of it. It was my move. But typically, you want to do the right order here. When you fail the first time, you go down to the penalty zone, and they give you a poem that tells you the right order. And then the final one, you have to do the thing you did on the last floor. You choose the one that is the whatever downside you chose on the second ascent.
So if you took the threshold of wealth, you have to know to touch the gold one.
To get there. And then the end one, all of them are wrong. There's a clear crystal that you take, and it's behind a illusory wall.
Just see illusion, cut your true path.
This brings us to our final Esper fight, Hashmal, who is this lion man with huge swords. Uses earth attacks. So if you have Floatiga or a float moat, you can get through this. And he casts that disease spell, which is, again, a big deal.
He likes to pile that up and do a ton of damage. Float nullifies him, though, which is nice. This is not our final Esper, because Sid summons one in.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that. I definitely didn't use it because it was the end of the game.
5, baby. Resolving the question at the beginning of the episode. So we take this long, quiet walk after we defeat Hashmal at the top of the lift there. A couple of conversations just about what are we going to do, nature of power, things like that. We get up to the Suncrist itself, kind of at the top of this tower where the lamp would be in a lighthouse. And Ashe is like, I can't believe it. I can feel its power. Vaughn's like, but you're going to use the sword to destroy the Suncrist. And Ashe says, don't interrupt me, Vaughn.
Which would be a cool moment if there was ever a doubt in my mind.
Right.
Like if I trusted this to have a character with shade, which Ashe does not have. Like, Ashe is not the worst character in this, but Ashe is pretty straightforward. Like, has lost a lot. Like, has a background that is interesting, but is just going to do the right thing because she's, honorable good.
They really ought to have shown her being a little bit, just to establish her and develop her at first as somebody who is willing to do quite, morally gray, something morally gray, to compromise her in the past, just to show that she might have it in her to make the rejection more meaningful.
100%. That I was thinking about this. I was workshopping in my head, and if I were recrafting this, I would have made her a guest that you did not have all the time.
Yeah.
Do not give her access to her as a player character. As a player character, I know she will do the right thing. If she were an NPC, she could do the wrong thing. And then it being a Final Fantasy, we'd just go into another realm and fight an ultimate god.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when she did the wrong thing, like she'd do a nuke and we'd get sucked into a thing. But it would at least make all this stuff ring more true.
Yeah.
I think. Then you'd only have 5 party members and 2 of your party members are already not worth it. So it's like, I understand why they didn't do that, but it's a cool line for a different character.
Yeah. But, and also just read on the page, it's just Vaughn making a good point. Her saying, "Don't interrupt me, dipshit."
Yeah. It's super funny, but it could have edge if she was an anti-hero, you know, like she's avoiding the question.
Yes.
So this huge mist cloud forms around the top of this tower, and Rassler's ghost appears once again, saying like, "Ashe, you should take revenge. Revenge is good, right?" And then Gabranth walks out and says, "Hey, Ashe, do some revenge.
Yeah.
Accept your destiny. Do revenges."
Yeah, take the Suncrist. You know, walk in Wraithwall's paths. You know, start with me. Kill the Kingslayer. You know, he is not serving his mission. He's not serving the spoken. The mission to the word. He is fulfilling the spirit of the mission. You know, Vane wanted to send him to provoke this anyway.
Yeah. Redis pops in though and stops Gabranth from attacking Ashe, forcing her to counterattack. And says like, "Listen, this is what really happened in Nabadis. I was a judge and I'm the one who pulled the trigger on Cid's orders to figure out what the Midnight Shard would do. Like I nuked this town."
Yes. Had no idea what it would do. And I was horrified by it.
Yep. And Gabranth is like, "Oh shit, I know you. You're Zect, the former judge." They keep fighting while Redis is giving you exposition, says, "Ashe, you have to reach for something greater than revenge. You can't just seek that."
Yeah, like we can't do it. You know, I, Zect, nor Gabranth, you know, it's beyond us. We're too tightly bound by the chains of history in a way that you are not.
Yes. Yeah. Rassler pops up. His Force Ghost pops up. And Ashe realizes at this point that he's fake. The Ecuria have summoned a Force Ghost to manipulate her. You know? Pretty, twisted shit.
Yeah. And the Ecuria speak through his mouth saying, you know, "Oh, you are our saint. You have to help us set right history." And she says, "No, I'm not. I'm not a false saint for you to use." And, she puts together like the Dalmasca that I loved never used the stone. They had it at their disposal and we knew what it did, but we were not a kingdom that would do that. If I use it, my home would be forever gone.
Yes. Yeah. So Gabranth cannot understand why someone wouldn't use power. Nothing that they can do will bring back, what the answer is that nothing they can do can bring back what the Emperor took from them. Basch, like he loses his cool. Basch says, you're still going to have things to protect even if Dalmasca falls, or Basch will still have things to protect.
Yeah.
Even if Dalmasca falls, like, you can't just fight for a nation or revenge.
Right. Yeah. It has to be something else. And this gets Gabranth to attack us for one of the easiest boss fights in the entire game.
Yeah. Really just, and at this point I welcome it. I was thinking about why I didn't remember the 5th Esperance because I never paused to equip it. Because I was like, we're kind of in a real greased rail.
Yeah.
At this point, towards the end. After you take him out, he still lives. He's disabled though. He tells Basch, you're never going to be able to clear that fail. You're never going to be able to clear your conscience of your failure to protect Landis.
Yeah.
And Cid interrupts and says, like, this is bullshit. When you bared steel against the princess, you forswore your obligations to the Emperor. You shame yourself, make a mockery of Lord Larsa's trust.
Yeah.
I relieve you of your duty. And he blasts him away. Like,
oh man. Balthier steps up because this is his moment. This is his conflict against his dad, saying, "Oh, you're just a tool of Vana." And Cid counters, "No, I'm not a tool. We're compatriots in this.
We're buddies.
Yeah, we're allies." And that is true. Cid is telling the truth. He's saying, the Ecuria, they give men power as a master feeds his dog. It is meant to tame us. How well you've resisted their wile. By turning your back on their stones, you give us free hand to write our own history. Like, we are still, by coming here, and with Ashe making the decision that she wanted to, that she wanted to make, turning down the Ecuria, she is still serving Vana's purposes, right?
Yeah.
To not start up a new dynasty. But the difference is, Ashe wants to destroy the Suncrist. He doesn't want to do that because it is way too much magicite to just throw away. He wants to take it and study it and use it for his own purposes.
Evil science.
Yeah. Vayne is more about the power, but whereas Sid is more of an extremist just for this idea of what can man do with this power that was once used to control us, basically.
Yeah. One is there for the power, and the other one is there for the power.
Yes.
Just slightly different articulations,
different shades of it. Yeah.
So he's not going to destroy it. He invokes the power of the mega nethicite, and the mists spill forth, powering the sky fortress Bahamut. Balthier calls it out, like, "Hey, you're just trying to become a god yourself," and then in a weird, like, he says, "Come, Famran, revel in the glory of my triumph." I had not seen the word Famran in this thing before. It felt very surprising that someone's yelling out this proper noun.
Oh no, it's Balthier's name.
Yeah. No, I figured it out.
Yeah,
but it doesn't make any sense at first, or it did not make sense to me at first. Mm-hmm. It felt like he was summoning another being.
Oh yeah,
or something.
Mm-hmm.
So you get another battle against Sid, and this time partway through, he summons his Esper Famfrit here, and while Famfrit is alive, he's invincible.
Yes,
so he will kind of support the Esper, but you have to kill the Esper first.
It's funny, he fights with an Esper like you do.
Yep, summons it and it hangs around and does spells on you while he's invincible. You had to take it. This was not very hard for me at this point.
No.
You take out the Esper and then you can take him out. He's dying and he tells Venat to let Balthier and the others come by.
Yeah.
Let them near him.
Yeah. And Venat doesn't care. Venat wants this destroyed. So, that cuts the ties. So go ahead. Don't stop them just because I tried to. And Sid, while he's dying, says, how I enjoyed these past 6 years. And Venat says, and I believe Venat, the pleasure was all mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that inversion that these evil things are, again, genteel. Or these otherworldly things. Balthier asks his dad if there's no other way. And before he fades away into the mist, Sid says, if you're so set on running, hadn't you best be off, fool of a pirate? Like, if you're just going to keep running from things, keep doing it, boy.
Yeah. This is the path he chosen.
Yep. Fran passes out because there's too much mist and tells Balthier to run with the others, but Balthier will not leave her behind. Ashe and Vaughn cannot power through the mist to destroy the Suncrist, but Redis can. He takes the sword and strikes the crystal for Nabidus.
Yes.
And as a judge magister and explodes the crystal.
Yeah. And this flash is seen all over Evil Ace. It destroys the tower. And everybody's real sad that Redis is gone, but like it is visible. We get shots of people reacting to it all across the land. Yes.
Yeah. So we go back to Belfomheim port, where El Cid is waiting for us in case you forgot about him. He's got bad news about the war. A Rosarian fifth column went in with the resistance and encroached into Arcadian space, provoking the response. So basically the war is starting.
Yes.
The battlefield will be Dalmasca, and Vayne commands the sky fortress Bahamut, which is a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a Death Star.
Yeah. Pretty much exactly. Except instead of being a sphere, it's a big old tower, big old flying tower kind of deal. Ashe figures, hey, I need to protect my people. We need to protect our home. We have to stop him. We need to go take out Vayne himself. And El Cid wishes her luck here, saying, hey, you should come by Rosaria, sample our wines and our flowers and such when all this is through. And then let's
have a marriage of our countries. And
and then he exits the story. And this is kind of the point where, with the fortress bearing down, you can go and do all the optional stuff. I didn't do it this time just because of time's sake. But, the main things that you would end up doing are the hunts, including the elite hunts. Hunts and espers. There's a special elite hunt club in the Fawn Coast where you get the high level ones. And in order to get all of the espers, you do have to go down the hunts. Killing particular ones get you keys that will get into particular areas. And in order to get the ultimate one, Zodiarch, I believe, you have to do the hunts and the key into the Henne mines to get him. And he's a little baby. He's a little baby snake guy who the gods had to make him stop growing, because even as a baby he was way too powerful.
Yeah. And you can eventually, if you have somebody use him on you, you can summon him in Final Fantasy Tactics. Eventually. It's kind of the end game stuff, and doing these things is like a sub game that powers itself.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you do it so you can do more of it. You know, which again, I have mixed feelings about. Like, in some level, I respect that. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
On some level, you know, this game is already long enough. I don't, you know, it's very of its time. Like if I had gotten into this during, like if this had come to me when I was a teen, I would have done it the same way I fought Emerald and Ruby Weapon.
Oh yeah.
You know, I was just too old for that shit.
Yeah, for me, I was in college, so I had nothing better to do during the summers. So yeah. But this going after that high level stuff, it does have a bit of the feel of going after like a raid target in an MMO. You know, they are long battles, they are difficult, they have tricks and gimmicks to them. It's just more than we can talk about here. Yeah,
which is part of doing this in 2 episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Bahamut appears over Rabanastra in a dark funnel cloud, and Larsa, we cut over to Larsa, who's begging Vayne to stop this.
Yeah.
But Vayne is insistent, you know, this is going to be for the greater good. A display of brute force is going to put down future resistances.
Yeah.
I need to make an example of them so they don't rise. You know, people I put down now will not rise against me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or make other people not rise against me tomorrow.
Yeah. And Larsa counters, you know, then you would just be rolling over people who hate you. And Vayne doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, nevertheless, there's a big error battle here until the Strahl, Balthier's ship, cuts in. And early on in like the first act, Balthier's magical mimicry device gets revealed for a tiny little thing I don't even think we talked about.
No.
It's very a weird Chekhov's gun because no attention is paid to it. But now Vaughn can use this to mimic Larsa's voice to convince Andor to let them through to the ship.
Yeah. Saying, hey, I'm not a captive. I'm working with the princess. We're going to, you know, stop this without a full on battle. It's going to be a decapitation.
Yes. Yeah. We go into this dungeon. This dungeon is short and it kind of weirdly overcorrects. I think these enemies are too tough. Like they're basically bosses.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I ran past them. They're harder than fighting a couple of these is harder than fighting the actual bosses.
Yeah, no, it's especially the sphere ones, the round ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like it's just a weird, like, and that's a Final Fantasy final dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of trope. Like you run away from the behemoths, you know, you're running away from behemoths here.
Yeah.
Unless you've done all the optional stuff. When you get to this lift, Gabranth boards it behind you. He followed you here. He lived. And he's holding on to his role as Judge Magister.
Yeah.
He's broken good. He's struggling with this. He asks Basch, you know, how he can go on, you know, after everything that happened. And he himself says that like, it's only his hatred of his brother who abandoned him that kept him going.
Yeah.
You know, he's the dark mirror of Basch.
Yeah. And this gets us another fight with Gabranth, which is similar to the first one. You know, it's still 3-on-1. This is more difficult, however, because he gets an ultimate attack that fires pretty often, actually, that just does thousands of damage to each party member.
Yes. Yeah. I said he broke good. It's not quite yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. We had to beat him up again. After you do, like, he keeps trying to get up. He's just driven by hatred. And Basch walks over and is like, let this end, Noah. You know, like your brother, man, cut this shit out.
Yeah.
He says he has no right to be called by that name. And Basch says, then live and reclaim it.
Like you still have a future. Yeah. Yeah. I'm real amenable to, you still have time as a moral.
Yeah. I like it a lot. It's one of my, you know, favorite morals. It's the best, most devastating line in Disco Elysium. To me, this is a final thoughts thing. Well, I'll save it for final thoughts. We're almost at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you get to the top of the lift here and Vayne confronts you, you know, asking if Ashe is an angel of vengeance or salvation. And she says, no, I'm just a princess. I'm just myself. And I want to be free.
And Vayne sees this as opportunity. You know, let's teach.
Learning moment.
Yeah,
teaching moment.
Says, "Hey, Larsa, observe well, watch and mark the suffering of one who must rule yet lacks the power."
Yes, and Larsa turns on him.
Mm-hmm.
He joins the fight against his brother. He's on our team. He has something called the bravery status.
No, so Vane has. Yeah, Vane has the bravery status. Yeah.
But Larsa's on our side now. Vane has this. This is increased your attack power.
Yes.
And you fight him. He is a multi-form boss,
right?
Multi-phase boss fight. The first phase, he's just a dude, but he hits hard.
Mm-hmm.
And his second form, he supercharges himself with mist from manufactured nethicite and becomes Horaloo, warrior. Becomes a big, strong, veiny man.
He's strong vein. Yeah.
Yeah. He becomes a big muscle boy.
Yeah. A baffling design decision, just visually.
It looks like shit.
He goes
in a game where the bosses usually look pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
And it's weird because this, like, the quote unquote, TV tropes one-winged angel thing is good usually. Like the way the Sephiroth turns into a monster is cool. The way Kafka turns into a monster is cool.
Mm-hmm.
The way Vane turns into a monster is fucking laughable.
Yeah.
Turns into a pro wrestler.
I mean, it's kind of like what happens at the end of Deadly Premonition.
It's very similar to what happens at the end of Deadly Premonition.
Yeah.
And just I can't take a wrestler seriously.
Uh-huh.
A wrestler body.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks cool. Like a super big strong man looks silly to me.
Yeah.
Like a Choa Nikki just shows up.
Yeah. All I can think of is It's Always Sunny talking about Hulk Hogan, skin of a hot dog, but with blonde Chinese hair.
Yep. Like 100%. The difference between him, so now he's strong and he has these flying energy swords with him. And Gabranth, who has taken Basch's words to heart, gets up to join the fight to protect Larsa.
Yeah.
That's his mission now.
Mm-hmm.
That is what he's going to reclaim his name with.
Yes, and he joins us. He is a guest in this fight against Strong Vane. And when you end up putting him down, Gabranth stabs him, and Vane responds with this huge burst of energy, so strong that it even tears apart Gabranth's helmet, kind of revealing, it's half the judge face, half his, and he asserts himself, saying even a stray has his pride. Both Gabranth and Basch have been referred to almost in epithet as dogs, stray dogs looking for masters.
Yes. Yep. Vane is about to issue this death blow, and Larsa uses his own nethicite to absorb the mist here to kind of, possibly save his brother, stop the mist. But instead of that, Strong Vane wanders outside and confesses to Venat that he failed.
Yeah.
You have to find somebody else, another one that might realize your ambitions.
Yeah. And Venat, instead of throwing him away, this is the beat, where a purely villainous or something purely callous would just throw him away, look for a new host, find somebody who is actually powered. Venat understands his mission's already done, this far and no further. My ambitions are fulfilled beyond your knowing. The Christ is sundered. The Age of Stone's complete. From the undying ones, the world is freed. You will not tread this path alone. Together we go. Come. Venat's going to go with him. Yeah. Like, he's going to make it a fight, but he's going to go with the person who served him. Yeah, because he is humanistic. Yes. He's loyal, but he's also, no longer has a reason to. He got his wish. So as this air battle kind of rages, Venat supercharges Strong Vane into Stronger Vane, who gets this big assemblage of mechanical wings, becomes something called the Undying. It's very Metal Gear Revengeance. Very tonally weird visually. Yeah. Like, what's happening is good. Visually, it's a mess. Mm-hmm. And this is actually our final boss battle. Yes. It's kind of an endurance thing. He's got, you don't see his health bar, but at various points, he puts up new barriers, which you have to deal with. And ends up kind of being a little bit of a fight for survival until you can continue doing damage to him. Not my favorite gimmick for a final boss. No. I personally feel, and I'm not trying to convince anybody of this, at this point in the main story, Final Fantasy XII has run out of boss gimmicks that are good. I don't think that we're getting cool stuff anymore in terms of... Very good that it happens at the last one.
Yeah, well, no, it happened before this. We had the Doom run out the clock guy for a while. Like we're treading water.
No,
and we've been treading water for a while.
The way you said it was, and at the final boss, it runs out of ideas.
Oh, that'd be a great time to run out of ideas. No, it has run out of ideas, and it's not like they saved something.
Right.
I guess is what I meant to say. It's not like they saved something cool for the end. I guess the gimmick is there are multiple phases, but like that's not inherently interesting to me. You take him down, and when he dies, the airship starts falling. It's going to land right on Robin Ostra. But Balthier and Fran send the rest to the Strahl with a plan to save it.
Yeah. Gabranth on the ship, says, "Hey, Basch, you need to look after Larsa." He's looking forward, just kind of casting forward. If House Solidor falls, if this young ruler ends up being taken advantage of or killed, an Arcadian civil war would drag Ivalice into chaos. Like, we need to maintain the status quo here, or else the consequences would be tragic.
Yes. So Basch takes the radio and uses the magical voice changer to pose as Gabranth, saying, "Vane's dead, the battle is over. The judges will sue for peace. Like it is time to end this war." But Zagabrath, the jerk, is about to ram the Bahamut to keep it away from this. Oh, no. This is
one who's just kind of been hanging around. Like, he was committed.
They got really similar fucking names, dude. Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the guy. I'm thinking of a different one.
There's another one. There's another Z one.
Yeah. This guy's fine. Sorry, Zach O'Brien.
let me see here. I'm doing a search for double A's. But
Zengabrath.
Zengabrath. Yeah. He has blog breath. No. Pull it. But he decides, like, hey, I'm going to do the sacrifice. All Arcadians, to focus fire on the Bahamut. We're going to try and blast it clear, and he is going to ram the flagship into it to try and knock it clear of the city. But Balthier cuts in. Him and Fran are down in the engine room trying to get one last burst of power out of its flight rings. So we'll go out into the desert. And Ashe is like, "No, like, you've got to come to the ship. Like, this isn't gonna, you don't need to sacrifice yourself for this." He says, "Don't worry, princess. I haven't forgotten my role in this story. And you know what they say about the leading man? He never dies." Which I like. That this is him being cheeky. However, I also enjoy the version of my head where he's actually never seen a play.
Yeah. Like he said it. He said the opposite earlier. At some point, I had to start thinking that Balthier is not the expert on stories that he thinks he is.
He's too cool to read.
Yeah, he's not that kind of guy. He's paid more attention in shop and spent most of his time eating puss and smoking.
Smoking puss and eating cigarettes.
Yeah, eating cigarettes and absolutely smoking pounds of puss. So he tells Van to take off. A year later, in a move that I'd forgotten about and just absolutely fucking gobsmacked me, Pinello is our POV character for the end, wrapping it all up. In the most like I'm still here moment that I've ever seen in a video game. To put it in perspective, Pinello was never in my party. I never switched to my backup bench after like the first fourth of the game. I had not seen or thought about Pinello in like 35 hours. And just like all of a sudden she's like, "Ah, yes, Larsa." And I'm like, what the fuck? Who is this?
It's hard to believe that it's been a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are you? What are you doing here? You weirdo. Very funny.
Yeah. But she's writing this letter to Larsa, who's going to be coming into town for Ashe's coronation, just kind of catching him up on what's happened over the past year as things have, come back to normal. Rabanastre still stands. Also standing is the Sky Fortress Bahamut, which is landed in the nearby desert, and they've actually built like a garden around it. It's like become a memorial. Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah.
They don't hang out with Ashe very much because she's busy, but she does think that Ashe misses Basch, who lives as Gabranth, looking after Larsa. So the twinning has reversed again here. Ashe gets a package with her ring in it. From Balthier. It's a little bit of a question whether Balthier lived through the crash, but this shows that he did. And the Strahl disappeared. Vaughn was taking care of it, but it disappears in the night.
Yes.
And they find an envelope with the ring. That's how she gets it, with a note. They found something more valuable, like you promised, the cache of Glabados.
Yes.
Yeah, Glabados.
It's waiting in Burvania, which is a sequel hook.
Yes.
Like Glabados is the religion in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, it's what I guess in Revenant Wings, Vaughn and Penelo go to meet them and continue to be sky pirates.
Yeah.
And that's Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah. A game I like.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot on the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I am judging this on the Japanese role-playing game per curve and the Final Fantasy curve, I think it's ahead above like a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's, something that you said when you talked about the, like, there's still time thing with Gabranth. I don't care about Gabranth very much. There's something about this because he doesn't get any screen time. Like, he gets 6 lines through the thing. There's something about the way that this genre tells stories with these big, very grand scope and epic scale, and these characters are very broad moments that acts as a shield for my heart.
Okay,
I cannot imagine feeling a thing about Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah,
I can respect that's the message of it, and I think that's good. That is something I like. And there's good dialogue that happens. Like, there is a poetry to the words in this game that I think is good.
Yes.
In general, but I can't, my heart is removed. I don't feel for these characters. And which wouldn't be a problem if the game didn't kind of rely on you being swept up.
Yeah.
In some of the emotionality.
Yeah.
Like, I recently, I think I mentioned this, I recently went and saw a play, and
there's
a big, what do you do? TV? Amateur. My girlfriend took me to a musical, and it wasn't Cats. She took me to see Cats, but she also went. I went and saw something called Hadestown. Hadestown is a retelling of Persephone, and all of that jazz. The myth of the Greek myth. Really broad strokes, very simple message. That's over the course of like 2.5 hour play, where all of the character motivations are very simple, very direct, and stated again and again and again. Like, how it's going to end. And that's one of the things I say in the play. It's like, this is a sad story. We've told it many times, but we know it. There's a mode of storytelling that I find common in musicals, anime, not all anime, some anime that I've seen, Japanese role-playing games, that is about these really big, broad, archetypical myth stories. Yeah. That makes it almost impossible for me to relate to on an emotional level or connect to on an emotional level. I have to do too much work to put myself in the feet of these people who are doing Basch things and Vaughn things. So when Gabranth, basically they have the same message, that there's still more time thing, which made me cry in Disco Elysium. And in Final Fantasy 12, I can say, put up my Bill Clinton thumb and say, I approve of that message. Yeah. But I have no emotion around it. Yeah. It's too abstract and big and theatrical and melodramatic. And it's not intimate enough. The character is not complicated enough. It's not, we don't spend enough time with them. Yeah. Like, there's too many things holding me at arm's length to have a feeling around this. And it's a big issue, a big component to the like bugbear fortress that keeps me from loving this genre anymore. Right. Right. It's, this might be my failing as a critic. It's impossible for me not to think about Final Fantasy 12 in the context of the series, right? That, I'm buying into it kind of on its terms, partly because of my history with the series, and this was the last Final Fantasy that I played and really enjoyed. So there's kind of a bitter. They got awful after this. There's a bittersweetness to it, right? But and there's also an aspect of something we talk about from time to time, which is like you at a certain point you can't keep comparing everything to the best because everything will come up short. So it's like, I don't know, like I would get real depressed about video games and never play another one again if I kept holding everything up against Disco Elysium, because that made me. I'm using that because it's directly the same thing, but compared to Control as well. which I think had more emotional truth than this. Like, it doesn't have to be the best in the business. It just has to not feel like it's for kids.
Yeah.
And I know that makes me sound like a dick, you know, and a lot of times people, you know, I also have that feeling of nostalgia when I play these when I was a kid, but like part of something I feel like I'm kind of getting to in this year is that like, maybe I don't like children's media. You know, I don't like things that are made for the cheap seats, like your Sonic 2s or your Final Fantasies. Like it's a little bit more sophisticated, but it still is big teen feels, big emotional swings, archetypes. It doesn't have to be Disco Elysium, but I think I need something more elevated than this to get to my my heart.
And even this being relatively elevated by performance is not enough for you. Yeah.
I still like it. I didn't hate my time with this. I was surprised. Like it's the first time I enjoyed playing this more than I enjoyed playing Chrono Trigger, you know, last year. Like it is a more fun game. The dialogue is sprightlier than that. Like I don't want to understate how the dialogue being kind of like catchy and cool turns of phrase and the presentation generally being elevated makes it a much more enjoyable experience. But the best art like will break my heart, you know, or at least like punch it a little bit, you know, at least give it a little kick. And I just cannot imagine myself. There's no judgment for people who do, because I'm sure this game has had a huge emotional effect on people, even, you know, not just when they were kids. Like somebody played this for the first time this year and thought it was incredibly moving. The way that these themes are portrayed in these like huge melodramas, these big grandiose stories that are about gods and magic rocks, I'm immune to it. It cannot hurt my heart.
I'm going to bring these up not as a rebuttal to that, but just as an extension of my what I was saying before about looking at this in the context of the series. Something that I think this does well, you know, in the context of the series is two things. So two things that previously it had, you know, kind of failed at. The first is Gabranth is a really good iteration on an expansion on the Golbez figure. In his relationship with Basch, I think kind of elevates that. You know, he has an interesting Darth Vader, a much more interesting take on Darth Vader to me. And the other thing is, it does a better version of Zemus and Zeromus, which is Venat is pretty great in terms of the big alien god that is manipulating stuff because it is humanistic.
10,000% on the curve. 10,000%. Like
because there is something there as opposed to nothing.
As opposed to the end of Final Fantasy IX, you know, or as opposed to X Death, or as opposed to Zeromus, you know, like it's a series that is bad at this in a genre that I think is bad at this. And it's cool when something is better at it. But I still think in order to have a real emotional reaction, I can admire it and recognize that it's better than that as a critic. It's still, I hunger for a more complicated carb in terms of emotional messaging.
Yeah. And I think something that we said in the, you know, the primarily mechanics focused, you know, first episode, which is like the stuff here that is, you know, necessarily, you know, substantial, but not sufficient. Like the ways in which the modest improvements make all of the difference in the world does stand as, you know, if not an indictment of the previous work, it stands in harsh relief and feels like it is in conversation with it, saying like, hey, this is ultimately the extension of how far of the direction that this could go. And, you know, it is not necessarily as far. I think that we can both agree there.
100%. Like it ends up becoming two different questions. Like one, I appreciate this for what it did and the choices it makes to transcend its history.
Yeah.
And then there's also so it in a field with Final Fantasies, with Final Fantasy IV, a game I also like, you know, but a lot of like first exposure to that kind of melodrama and big kid fields. In a field of Final Fantasies made huge strides. It in a field of art, like somebody who thinks of games as art, who wants games to compete on the same battlefield that like ideally that like a brilliant TV show or movie would, or a book would compete on.
Yeah.
It's still small ball.
Yeah.
It's still little leagues in a way that like, and this is not, I'm self-aware enough to know that like there are biases at play. Like there are TV shows I like that are simple carbs. There's a level of investment and time investment that makes me judge this a little bit more rigorously.
Yeah.
Because it's asking more of me.
Yeah.
To get there. It's like getting to, the equivalent, I play this for 42 hours. It's equivalent to like 4 10-episode seasons of a show.
Yeah.
To not have it break my heart or do anything other than like, yeah, that's pretty neat in the context of what had come before. That had some good dialogue, but it was all right.
Yeah.
I didn't feel very moved by the emotion to it or the characters is kind of damning. Like, again, not on the curve of the genre it's on, but in terms of just art, and that's complicated by the fact that parts of this are fun to play, which is a different kind of joy that you can have. And it's complicated by the fact that's my job. There's all these like complicating factors, but I want something to excel. I want either a mechanical excellence or a narrative or thematic excellence. I don't want to play in the kiddie pool with this stuff as much. And like, it's also a thing that I'm realizing about myself. A big discussion in the Slack about Sekiro, where this came up, is that relatability is important to me.
Okay.
In things like being able to like feel like I felt the way that character feels. And a lot of the big emotional strokes in this about power and duty are not things that I have had to work on. I don't get exposed to those. I have very little power as a podcaster and my duties are nothing. Like my duties are like record 3 times a week with you. It's not a sacred duty. I don't have any strong feelings about it. There's things about letting go of your past that are relevant.
I really wish that it played more in that space. I truly wish that it did.
Me too. And it's a weird contrast this with a really interesting companion piece to this, which is another one that I think is a stronger Final Fantasy is 9, which is the best parts about 9 are about characters realizing their own death.
Yeah.
And their impending mortality. The worst parts about it are these gigantic melodramatic things that nobody could ever relate to, and the series is defined by having both of those things. And I have gone on to find one of them just almost entirely subtractive to me. I wanted to spend a lot more time with characters moving on and more time individually on those stories, but you can't do that in a story about space rocks, like magical rocks that are nukes. It ends up becoming a very complicated game to me, more complicated than other, more complicated than Chrono Trigger, which is like something that I like because the pace is very snappy and it's good and fun and looks real good and sounds real good. This is a more complicated thing to chew on. It gets closer for me, but it doesn't quite get there for me.
Can I put a video essay / think piece button on this?
Yeah.
For this game to be truly about your relationship with the past and whether or not you can actually sever from it, this entry in the series needed to sever itself from not just its genre, but the past of the series as a whole to do something different.
Yeah, I agree. Which is weird because that is the Final Fantasy strength, right? Like the reason, the 2 gigantic pillars of Japanese role-playing games, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, are 2 different design philosophies in terms of iteration or revolution.
Yes.
Like the appeal of Final Fantasy is that each one is different world, different characters and stuff like that. That's really cool from a mechanics standpoint. Like they make hay with that idea, reinventing their systems every time, but each one is tethered to these ideas of the past, of there being a crystal, of there being these kind of character archetypes, of there being a giant space fleet at the end that really hold it back.
Yeah.
There are priors that are just assumed to be virtuous. And are working for them. Like it's a very popular video game series.
Right.
Fans want this stuff.
People want to know people want to know who the Cid is,
Yes.
Yeah.
Like who's the Golbez? Like I'm just not a fan of this series anymore. And that is why.
Yeah.
Those things no longer just are inherently virtues to me anymore. I love that we did this because it was not only did I have fun with it, like I know it doesn't sound like it. I like this video game. I think it's a good video game. But the other thing is that it just really was very useful in my own thinking about this stuff, it's fascinating. It'll be interesting next year because we're going to end up, the rhythm of doing one of these in the summer is good. There's like a arms race element to me where I want to, like, it would be hard to do Final Fantasy, 8 after this, which also to me has pretty shallow characters and does not deal with its themes very well.
Yeah.
Like the first episode of that episode would be great. I would love to spend a bunch of time talking about the mechanics of that game.
Yep. And
then just when we started having to cash in emotional beats, all those checks bounce.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. No, I'm bummed that because of the way time works, I was not able to get to the optional stuff because I do really enjoy that valence and expression of the systems. But so it goes.
Yeah, I like that stuff too.
Yeah,
like this at its most mechanically rigorous is cool, and all of those positive things I said during the mechanical part, other than like the griping about treasure chests and stuff, which I do think are problems, but like that is all real.
Yes.
The upsides of that and the way the dialogue is delivered, the presentation, those are all real upsides. It's not fake. It's not trivial.
Yeah.
It's just, I love to have my heart touched by art. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, almost, it gets there closer than some games. So
agreed. Thank you very much, Nat. For executive producing this. Thank you, Cole, for throwing the pick on to make this a two-parter. Did the same thing in September. We'll see if that pays off similarly. Yeah.
It will be a similar thing in that I love the mechanics of that game and can talk about them forever.
Yes.
And the story doesn't do a lot for me, but it's not as, I don't remember that trying to tug my heartstrings as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you want to support us, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. You can get bonus episodes, including our next episode about Wario Land 4, which slaps.
Yep.
And you can also sponsor things like Nat did. If you are a non-white, non-dude, non-cis person who's making stuff, send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv and we will highlight you. Duckfeed highlight. I want to talk about Zakana, who does video game reviews, analyses, and retrospectives on obscure indie games and retro games. The name of the channel is Fond of Umbrella Terms. I looked this up. The really neat stuff that I had not heard of. Pretty deep polls.
Okay.
For this, she's doing real cool work in terms of discoverability.
Nice.
On some of this stuff. So if you want to find a voice and who is looking at things that people do not often look at, she's doing it.
Yeah. That channel is Umbrella Terms. If you're looking to find this, well, there will be a link, obviously, but also for remembering it later, Zakana is spelled XICANA.
Yes. That is her name. The name of the channel is Umbrella Terms. If you just put in Umbrella Terms, you'll get her stuff. Yeah. So there are things here that I've seen people talk about, like there's Dropsy and Dark Side Detective. And then there's Sleuth Hounds and Gender Wrecked and Frankenstein Through the Eyes of the Monster. Just things I had not heard of.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to checking out our channel.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, Zakana.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And again, if you have something, that's Gary@Duckfeed.tv.
If you have thoughts about Final Fantasy 12, by the time you hear this, you've got like a day or so probably. Go to duckfeed.tv/contact and click Watch Out for Fireballs. Write in with your thoughts about Final Fantasy 12 or Wario Land 4. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please separate them into multiple responses. The deadline for that is August the 15th. The deadline for September's games is September the 15th, and those games, once again, are Bugsnax. We're doing a two-parter of Metal Gear Solid 5, and then we are rounding out with a premium episode about Carrion.
Yes. Looking forward to all of that.
Yeah.
And after that, it's a spooky month. So look forward to that.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And until next time, what should they watch out for, Cole?
Watch out for stones.
Yeah. Manufacted, deaffected. The only place for them is the trash. Trashy facted. Fuck them shits.